Chapter 375. Miss Maid was very clear about the boss's background. She thought the boss would take the old photo away, but soon, the boss put it back on the wall. The shop owner smiled and reached out to wipe it once. It was as if it had never been taken off. Luo Qiu took out his mobile phone, took a picture of the old photo, and saved it. Luo Qiu looked at Yu Yi and said softly, "The photo is missing a part of the wall, so it won't look good, right?" The servant girl nodded her head slightly. At this time, Luo Qiu took her hand and went to the window. He opened the blinds to make the sunlight brighter, saying with a smile, "Come on, let me take a photo for you." Yu Yi was a little surprised, but she obeyed. She was used to responding to her master's request. Miss Maid didn't walk directly under the sun. She knew where she should stand to make the effect of light and shadow better. But the boss didn't use his mobile phone. He turned over his hand and a walnut-colored wooden box appeared in his palm. It was a collectible taken out from the club's warehouse. He opened the box, and inside was what the boss wanted to use: a camera. It was a Hasselblad 500C with golden edges. The boss lowered his head and slightly bent over, looking at the lens of the Hasselblad 500C. "Well, although you didn't wear your hair in a Chinese style, you can really wear all the clothes. Raise your chin a little bit, okay?" Time passed quietly with the sound of the shutter. When old Feng opened the iron gate outside the house, time seemed to flow again. After opening the gate, old Feng glanced at the gap of the door. Here, before he went out, he had clipped a small page under the door, and the leaf was still in its original position at this moment. It was not much higher than the ankle. Old Feng let out a sigh of relief. He took the leaf out and opened the door. Old Feng looked at this old house carefully. He seemed to be puzzled for a moment, but he didn't feel that anything was wrong. Old Feng shook his head, wondering if he was a little too sensitive. Old Feng closed the door quickly and put down his toolbox. This time, he didn't start work immediately. Instead, he quickly took out the notebook that recorded Xiaoman's height and size. Old Feng took the scissors and walked to the corner, using the measuring tape to measure the height of Xiaoman. Old Feng carefully carved the height on the wall. Although it was much lower than the other scales on the corner, Old Feng was satisfied at this moment. Touching the new scratch gently, Old Feng smiled. Because he never thought that he would make such a record one day. Old Feng felt that it was too extravagant, more extravagant than his life. A criminal's escape was not something that could be easily fooled, especially the criminal who was classified as a high risk. In addition to the wanted notice to all the TV stations, a special investigation team was set up. In the meeting room, in addition to the department in charge of horse smuggling, there were also 2 groups of police officers. They were reporting the latest situation. "These 2 days we have been guarding the bus stations, train stations and even airports, but we didn't find any trace of the criminal. We have also investigated the owners of the illegal pheasant cars, but we didn't find any trace. Zhao Ru didn't leave any spending records, but we have asked the bank to freeze her account. We haven't received any tip-off from the citizens. She didn't go back to the place where she lived. Private Ma, is it possible that Zhao Ru has escaped from this city? She was rescued by her accomplice, but we don't know who the accomplice is, so there is a great chance for her to escape. Should we apply for the support from other cities?" "Yes." Ma Hao tapped the pen and said, "I have informed other cities, and they have started to take action. But I think the possibility of her leaving this city is very low." "Ma Hao, do you think the criminal will stay here?" A policeman was puzzled. "She has been exposed, and we are looking for her. What's the reason for her to stay here?" Ma Hao said seriously, "Do you remember what she took with her when she wanted to escape last time?" With those documents." Ma Hao nodded. "That's right. Those photos are used to torture the students in the cram school. Let's assume that she was afraid of being exposed, so she wanted to escape. But why didn't she destroy the evidence that was fatal to her when she left? Why did she take it away?" Ma Howd, you mean the students in her notebook are still her targets? The policeman was stunned. She still dares to do that? But I have interrogated Zhao Ru. There is something wrong with her mental state. Another officer said, it's very difficult for us to analyze the actions of a criminal with abnormal mental state using normal thinking. Ma Howd nodded. Yes, I also think so. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack to search for her in the train station. It's better for us to check the students in those documents. Lin Feng, assign some people. No matter what reason you use, get in touch with the students on the list as soon as possible. See if they have received any suspicious mail recently. Pay attention to the mental state of these students. A young policeman. Lin Feng nodded. He had to work harder. After all, he was also involved in the case of the criminal. He had to work harder. Okay, go back to work. Ma Howd clapped his hands and sent them out of the conference room. He glanced at Wang Yuechuan, who was sitting in the corner, and said indifferently, Comrade Wang, we have finished the conference room. We can't pack up the things here for the time being, so you have to make do with it. It's okay. Wang Yuechuan just lowered his head and typed in his notebook, without looking back. Ma Howd shrugged. Anyway, their relationship had never changed. But when Ma Howd left the conference room, his expression suddenly changed, as if he had met a ghost. He had planned to hide in the conference room, but when he remembered that Wang Yuechuan was here, he braced himself and walked forward. Ren Xiling came. Ma Ili almost jogged over. My great-aunt, you ran up here? I'm here to visit. Ren Xiling rolled her eyes at Ma Howd, and picked up the cake box in her hand. I'm here to give you afternoon tea. Why, you don't like it? No, I'm very happy. Ma Howd quickly pushed Ren Xiling into his office. But I have something important to do now, so I don't have time to entertain you. It's okay, I can take care of myself. Ren Xiling squinted. But you seem to be really busy? Everyone went out to work. Oh, there's still one here? Who is he? I haven't seen him before. There are many people you haven't seen. Ma Howd quickly stood in front of Ren Xiling, blocking her sight, and then made a zipping action over his mouth. I know what your purpose is. The Bureau issued a wanted notice, and the whole world knows about it. I knew you would definitely come. But I have no comment. Oh, I remember. Wang Yuechuan, right? Unexpectedly, Ren Xiling suddenly patted her head. Ma Howd was stunned. You know him? I thought he looked like him. So, it's really him? Ren Xiling shrugged. But I know him, and he doesn't know me. Then, how do you know this person? Ren Xiling rolled her eyes at Ma Howd and said, Have you forgotten what I do? Wang Yuechuan, who solved a major serial murder case a year ago. Not only me, but also the media people in the province don't know him. But it's too far away in the provincial government, so I'm too lazy to interview him. But speaking of it, this guy is really a little handsome, right? No wonder he was popular last year and had a lot of fangirls. But he's not as handsome as my son. Why is this woman's memory and eyesight so good? Ma Howd was about to say something, but Ren Xiling frowned and said, Hey, isn't this young detective from the Provincial Bureau? Why is he here? Ma Howd still wanted to say something, but at the same time, he heard the voice he didn't want to hear the most from behind. Wang Yuechuan's voice. Officer Ma, who is this person? He saw Wang Yuechuan standing at the door of the conference room, frowning and looking over. Ma Howd suddenly felt that his brain wasn't enough. How should he explain? She it is. Ma Howd said quickly, Take out? Yes, take out. I saw that everyone worked hard, so I made some afternoon tea. Ren Xiling suddenly widened her eyes. Wang Yuechuan frowned and said, Didn't they all go out already? Ma Howd was sweating at this time, but he still forced himself to look at Ren Xiling and said angrily, Yes. I shouted 2 hours ago. What are you guys doing? Why did you only send it over now? Do you still want to do business? Is it because you saw a handsome guy on the road that you can't walk? Officer Ma. Ren Xiling smiled and looked at Ma Howd, which made Ma Hao's back cold. Sorry, Officer Ma, I really saw a handsome guy on the road, so I couldn't walk. Don't be offended, no. I won't. Ma Hao's hands and feet were cold. He coughed and said, It's okay, just be careful next time. And then, Officer Ma, please pay the money? Ren Xiling said with a smile, Thank you, 233 yuan. What? This small box costs 233 yuan? Why don't you go rob a bank? Officer Ma. Our shop is operating on a shoestring budget, but we use the real stuff. Officer Ma, did you just order it? I see that you are our regular customer, so this is already 20% off. Ma Hao glanced at Wang Yuechuan, who had a weird face, and could only take out his wallet with tears. 250 yuan, keep the change. Ren Xiling stuffed the box into Ma Hao's hand and shook her hand. Thank you, Officer Ma. You're welcome. Ma Hao let out a sigh of relief when he saw that Ren Xiling really turned around and left. But Wang Yuechuan was still standing at the door of the meeting room, so Ma Hao could only turn around stiffly. That? Comrade Wang, do you want to eat? You're welcome, I'm not hungry. Wang Yuechuan shook his head and walked in. The private horse suddenly quivered. He raised the box high and wanted to throw it on the ground, but he quickly stopped. 250 yuan, he didn't want to waste it. But immediately, Ma Hao received a message from Ren Xiling. I know where Zhao Ru is. A burst of black smoke rolled into the club. After it took shape, an old witch's face was revealed. Black Soul number 18. Black Soul number 18 glanced at the lobby of the club, but found that the boss was not here. Only Miss Yu Yi was wiping the cups at the counter, while the other tenant was still sitting quietly in the corner. Number 18, what's the matter? He's not here. Yu Yi said indifferently. Black Soul number 18 nodded. Miss Yu Yi, it's the same if you're here. This is the information of the potential customers I found these days. Black Soul number 18 took out 3 information cards. You're as efficient as before. Yu Yi nodded. Put them down, I'll give them to the owner when he comes back. Yes, Mississippi, Black Soul number 18 nodded respectfully. Then I'll continue to look for new potential customers. Go ahead. Miss Maid waved her hand. Black Soul number 18 didn't say anything, but curiously turned around and asked, By the way, Miss Yu Yi, the new Black Soul envoy I met last time isn't here? You mean Taiyinzi? Yu Yi smiled. He should be fine now, don't worry. Who would believe Miss Maid's words? Black Soul number 18 shivered and flew out of the club at once. The sound of a gavel was heard. Don't get me wrong, there was no gavel here, it was just a pair of slippers. Taiyinzi sat upright and heavily patted the slippers in his hand. In the prisoner's activity room, when the bowstring sounded, the arrow flew out and hit a few small trees. At that time, the entire camp was filled with cheers, causing Ning to break out in a cold sweat from fright. At this time, guess what happened? What happened? Among the group of old prisoners, someone hurriedly asked. Although he was curious as to why old Feng, who had been living a peaceful life all these years, suddenly became active these days. Old Feng's storytelling skills were really good. It was the romance of the 3 kingdoms. Well, water. Taiyinzi coughed and a cup of water was brought to him. Taiyinzi moistened his throat and heavily patted the slippers in his hand. Bang! But at this time, Zhou Xiaoquan hurriedly walked in and came to Taiyinzi's side, shouting, Brother, Fatty Zhang is here for you. Which Fatty Zhang? I haven't mentioned Wen Ho yet. Let's talk about it later. Taiyinzi snorted unhappily. It's Fatty Zhang in the next cabin. Zhou Xiaoquan said in a cold sweat, Brother, don't tell me you've forgotten that you've stolen 6 cigarettes from Fabsi yesterday? He's Fatty Zhang's follower. Although he didn't know what kind of stimulation this brother had suffered these days, he seemed to have lost his mind. However, Zhou Xiaoquan swore that he had never known that this old man was so ferocious. He had hidden his strength so well. He knocked Scabby San down in a blink of an eye. Could it be that he turned his grief into strength? Which one is old phone? Come out. I promise I won't kill you. Chapter 376. At the door of the activity room, a man who was taller and stronger than the others was standing there with his arms crossed. Although he couldn't be described as a ruler, the tall and strong man in front of him indeed had such a high status. There was a scar on the left side of Fatty Zhang's cheek, and his arms seemed to be thicker than the thighs of the prisoners here. Kid, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Old Taoist, am I someone you can mess with? Tai Yinzi didn't move. He calmly picked up the cup and took a sip. He didn't look at the other party directly. Fatty Zhang sneered and then walked in. He was not alone, but followed by 3 other young and strong guys, one of whom was Scabby 3. Seeing these people walking towards him with ferocious faces, Zhou Xiaoquan hurriedly waved his hand and said, Boss Zhang, let's talk about the past. My brother is in a bad mood recently. Why don't I apologize to you on his behalf? I'll pay for your loss, I'll pay for it. Don't worry, I'll pay for it. Fatty Zhang sneered, pointing at himself and said, I'll pay for it and I'll save face. This old man hit my people, which means he hit my face, so I'll pay him back. With this, Fatty Zhang pushed Zhou Xiaoquan away with one hand, and then easily grabbed the collar of the little old man in front of him, lifting him up from the stool. Old fool, did you take the wrong medicine? How dare I mess with you? If you know what's good for you, you'd better put me down, and then kneel down and kowtow in front of me. Then I'll forgive you generously. Tai Yinzi yawned. Fatty Zhang didn't get angry but laughed out loud. Did you hear that? This old man really has a problem with his head. Haha, I'll see what you can do. With this, Fatty Zhang released him, and then clenched his fists, his knuckles cracking. Don't say that I don't respect the old, I'll give you a chance. Come on, one-on-one. Okay. Roar! Kill him. All of a sudden, the 3 people that Fatty Zhang brought over immediately started to make a ruckus. For the prisoners here, life was both simple and boring. Some games, that could regulate the excessive secretion of hormones, were very good for relieving the restlessness in their hearts. Tai Yinzi scoffed. With his hands behind his back, the corners of his mouth drew a slanted arc as he said indifferently, Let me, your grandfather, give you 3 moves. Oh! Fatty Zhang seemed to be amused. He widened his eyes and said, Did you hear that? Did you hear that? This old man is really King interesting. Then I won't hold back. Seeing Fatty Zhang take a step forward with a sneer, Zhou Xiaoquan hurriedly said, Boss Zhang, don't be impulsive, the prison guards will come. They won't come. At least, I won't come here before I finish my business. Fatty Zhang shook his head. The 3 men he brought with him hurriedly walked to Zhou Xiaoquan's side and held him down. Are you ready? Old bastard! Fatty Zhang took a deep breath as he raised his fist up high. He was a person who practiced boxing. His body looked fat and thick, but it was full of strong muscles. Ordinary people couldn't bear this punch, let alone a thin and weak little old man. Wait a minute. Unexpectedly, before he could swing his fist, the old man suddenly shouted. Fatty Zhang was startled. He secretly thought that the old man's shout just now was a bit scary. He quickly calmed down, raising his eyebrows and said, What? Are you going to beg for mercy so soon? Tai Yinzi smiled indifferently, and didn't seem to intend to escape. Instead, he picked up the TV remote control on the table. He actually turned on the only TV in the activity room at this moment. All of a sudden, high-pitched music rang out in the activity room. Was it a music station? What are you doing? Fatty Zhang asked in astonishment. Tai Yinzi sneered. Idiot, haven't you heard that in my BMG I'm invincible? Motherf asterisk cur. Fatty Zhang was stunned. After a short while, he was furious that he had been fooled. Without any hesitation or intention to stop, he directly punched towards the face of the shriveled old man in front of him. However, the old man in front of him didn't panic at all, and dodged it easily. The old man said indifferently, Young people these days are really stupid. You're courting death. Fatty Zhang punched horizontally. Taiyinzi squatted slightly, and his arm swept across the old man's head, but didn't hurt him at all. His arm stretched out like a snake, and his 5 fingers pinched into a water chestnut shape, and quickly hit Fatty Zhang's waist. This seemingly soft and powerless hit actually made Fatty Zhang scream like a pig being slaughtered. He covered the injured place at once, and his face turned pale, and cold sweat came out from the pain. Taiyinzi lifted his foot, and directly kicked Fatty Zhang more than 2 meters away. Ouch, it hurts so much. Fatty Zhang covered his stomach, and weakly grabbed something to get up, and suddenly roared, "What are you waiting for? Come on. Beat this old man to death." The other people suddenly quivered, and hurriedly let go of Zhou Xiaokuan, and rushed towards the shriveled old man. "You know nothing about strength." Humph! Only a cold snort was heard. Maybe it was because they moved too fast, or maybe there was something that others didn't know about. The prisoners in the activity room only saw these people rushing over, and then in the blink of an eye, they all retreated, and almost fell to the ground at the same time. This nice guy, Old Feng, who always kept a low profile, now opened his hands and his legs took a big horse stance. "I'll show you what real strength is." Ah! Scaly 3 was the first to kneel down in pain, and Taiyinzi version of Old Feng got the first kill. Another youth was lying on the ground, and Taiyinzi version of Old Feng got the second kill. Ouch! A painful cry was heard, and Taiyinzi version of Old Feng dominated the battlefield. Don't hit the face." Fatty Zhang was frightened, and he hugged his head and squatted down. Taiyinzi version of Old Feng was godlike. "Humph, do you still want to do it?" Taiyinzi waved his sleeves proudly. Fatty Zhang and the other 3 hurriedly lowered their heads and shook their heads while trembling. They said in panic, "No, no more." Taiyinzi nodded, and turned around with his hands behind his back, and said indifferently, "Listen, from today onwards I'm the only boss here. Do you hear me? Listen carefully." Everyone hurriedly nodded. Okay, Grandpa, I'll continue to tell the story, Where was I? Bro, you didn't mention Marquis of Wen's appearance. Zhou Xiaokuan swallowed his saliva and reminded him in a low voice. Taiyinzi nodded, and he took off his slippers, sat down slowly, and slammed his slippers on the table. Another shocking sound was heard. Marquis of Wen. He cut out the most suitable size with a pair of scissors. This was the accumulation of the old tailor over the past decade. It was made of the best silk that Old Feng could find. But Old Feng was really old, and his eyesight was not good. Threading the thread took him a lot of time. His fingers were not as nimble as before. Although he had added oil to the sewing machine, he did not dare to use it too quickly. This was the thing that he had spent the most effort to complete in his life. He could not afford to make any mistake. He turned on the lamp on the workbench. It was already dusk, and Old Feng had been working for the whole day. He knew that his hands and feet were not as nimble as before, and he could only use more time to make up for this shortcoming. Except for lunch and going to the toilet, he almost never left the workbench. It seemed to be raining outside again, and the weather in the city began to become abnormal again. But Old Feng did not notice it, because he had unknowingly laid on the workbench. He was still holding the needle in his hand, but his eyes were closed. He was so tired that he fell asleep. It was an instinctive reaction, and Old Feng could not change it. Plop, plop, plop. The rain hit the window, and the furniture in the house was about to be wet. At this moment, the window was gently closed. The boss of the club was here. He looked at the old man under the lamp. Luoqiu closed the window, and waved his hand to make the rain evaporate instantly. He then walked over to the tea cabinet and added some water to the kettle that was boiling hot water. The water would boil automatically, and then the old man would be able to drink a mouthful of hot water when he woke up. Old Feng did not notice this little trick, and he would not care about it. Chapter 377. Here? Street sleepers? Of course, Ma Ili wouldn't come here alone with Ren Xiling to catch them. After all, they were in their own territory, not in a foreign land. Therefore, before the young police officer Lin Feng had time to act according to the original plan, he was caught by Ma Yi and taken to the police station together with him. In the car, Ren Xiling climbed from the back seat to the driver's seat, nodding. The street sleepers around here all rely on picking up waste for a living. There's a guy I know who owns a junkyard right here. According to what they said, a strange woman had recently arrived here. Do you see the black area inside? That's the position, I saw it from afar. Ma Haud was stunned. I didn't expect. I've been to Zhao Ru's house. She likes to be clean, like a germaphobe. How could she hide in such a place? Who said that Ma Ili was wrong? It was a very dirty alley. The long alley seemed endless. One side of it was covered with all kinds of paper boxes, iron nets, daily necessities and bags full of garbage. Most women, especially younger women, would subconsciously avoid such a place. Lin Feng, you go to the other side of the alley, we'll block her from the front and back. Ma Haud said hurriedly. Sub-editor Ren stopped the two police officers who were about to take action. Hey, wait a minute. She won't run away for the time being, but we need to make something clear first. Madam Ren, are you going to interfere again? Ma Ili suddenly felt that he was in trouble. Unexpectedly, Ren Xiling rolled her eyes, then glared at him. What are you talking about? I cherish myself very much, okay? Of course, it's you who do such a dangerous thing. I won't do anything special from now on, just provide information. What I want to say is, how much is the reporting fee this time? Are you going to break your promise? Ma Haud was stunned. Madam, you don't need to raise a gigolo. I've been paying you a lot of money for your informants this year. I don't understand why you're so obsessed with the informant fees. F***CK. I don't need to contribute to the building? You don't need to provide a car? My son is still in university. Are his school fees not money? Don't you need money for your daily necessities? Ren Xiling said matter-of-factly. That kid even got a girlfriend recently. Don't you need pocket money? My brat is now working as a private tutor to earn extra money. It must be because he doesn't have enough money. Such a sensible child. How could I not earn more for him? Otherwise, how could he marry a wife in the future? Don't you know how expensive things are now? Okay, I won't shortchange you. Ma Haud quickly calmed Ren Xiling down. He knew that once this woman got angry, there would be no end to it. But Ma Yiran also had an indescribable feeling in his heart. That year, not long after Brother Luo's accident, she found a group of people, all of whom were Brother Luo's former friends, to sign a supervision guarantee. That was a guarantee that they would supervise all of Brother Luo's property after his death, so that his son could inherit all of it after graduating from university. Obviously, that was an asset that could make her life a lot better. The group of friends also felt that it was reasonable for her to enjoy a part of it. Over the years, this woman had never spent a cent of that property. It was this kind of stubbornness. But if she didn't have this kind of stubbornness, how could such a little woman work hard alone in this huge city? These years. Should I ask old Lu to increase the informant fees? As Ma Ili thought about it silently, he looked back and saw that Ren Xiling was really hiding in the car obediently and didn't get out. Speaking of which, the recent red light tickets. I haven't seen any of them, right? Ma Yiran shook his head and threw these thoughts away. Then he quickly waved his hand and let Lin Feng go around to the other side of the alley, ready to surround the fugitive inside. How on earth did the handcuffs break that day? Zhao Ru had been thinking about this question. Of course, when she woke up in the special ward, she didn't think about it carefully. She just saw that a policewoman seemed to have fainted, sitting on the chair in the ward. The door was not locked and there was no one outside. She could even leave the hospital easily. But until now, she still couldn't figure out who had helped her. But it didn't matter. The important thing was that she regained her freedom. He hid in the house made of paper boxes all by himself. In this space that could only accommodate one person lying down, there was nothing extra. She hugged her knees and leaned against the wall, but didn't bury her head. She just silently looked at the wall across the alley. Her fingers seemed to be unconsciously fiddling with the pendant in front of her chest, as if she was waiting. Suddenly, Zhao Ru tilted her head, as if she was listening to something. She heard some footsteps. The footsteps were coming towards her. Close, close, close. Zhao Ru held her breath and quietly stretched her hand to her back where she hid a knife. She held the handle of the knife. Ma Ili finally stopped his footstep. At this time, Ma Haud suddenly opened the paper box and shouted coldly, "Police, don't move, you are escaping." "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Ma Ili saw a petrified old man in the box. He immediately shook his head. But at this time, the box next to him was overturned and fell on him. When he finally got rid of the paper box, he saw a figure running crazily to the other end of the alley in front of him. "Don't run. You can't escape." Ma Haud quickly chased after him and took out the walkie-talkie. "Lin Feng, the criminal is running towards you, you must block him." Lin Feng, who was at the end of the alley, took a deep breath and said to himself, "Come on." He saw a figure lowering his head and rushing towards him at lightning speed. Lin Feng opened his arms. This alley was not wide. With his arms opened, he practically took up more than half of the alley's space. Seeing that this guy was recklessly charging towards him, Lin Feng also pounced forward and directly pushed him to the ground. "Don't run. You can't escape." Lin Feng directly pressed him to the ground and took out handcuffs, handcuffing him with one hand and handcuffing his own wrist with the other. At this time, Ma Haud hurriedly arrived. "Ma Ili, I caught her." Lin Feng raised his head and lifted him up by the shoulder. Ma Ili wanted to praise this guy, but he stopped before he could say anything. "It's not Zhao Ru." "What?" Lin Feng saw clearly that it was not Zhao Ru. It was not even a woman, but a thin middle-aged man. "You? Why are you running?" Lin Feng angrily slapped the other party's back. The middle-aged man said, "Officer, I saw you, why didn't I run?" "Why did you run when you saw us?" Ma Haud stared at him. "Didn't you come to catch me? I stole a motorcycle a few days ago." The middle-aged man said subconsciously, but he suddenly realized something and covered his mouth. Ma Haud rolled his eyes and Lin Feng shook his head, looking at the middle-aged man. "We came to catch a woman, not you. But now we have to catch you." "A woman? Is it?" The middle-aged man said, "That woman?" "Which woman?" "I don't know her, she just came here a few days ago. That woman said she didn't want her place and gave it to me." The middle-aged man shrugged. "I saw her place was clean, so I moved here. But you came before I remembered to clean it up. When did it happen?" "Around 3 or 4 p.m. I don't remember." At this time, Lin Feng glanced at Ma Haud and frowned. "Private Ma, this seems to have happened when you just received the news." Ma Haud heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. "This woman is too cunning." An old face and a childish face appeared in front of Zhao Ru at the same time. They were a grandfather and a grandson, who seemed to be homeless and wandered here, relying on scavenging for a living. They lived next to her, in a house made of wood and iron. "What's the matter?" The old man smiled. "Miss, I bought some buns today. It will be a waste if we can't finish them, so I'll give you some. You just came here, let's take good care of each other." The little boy took out a small bag from his shabby school bag. His hands were a bit dirty, so he wiped them on his clothes before opening the bag and giving it to Zhao Ru. He smiled shyly. Chapter 378. In the car, Ren Xiling saw Ma Haud and Lin Feng walking back dejectedly. They caught a middle-aged man who looked like a street sleeper. She quickly got off the car. "Oh? Why did they catch such a person?" Ma Haud shook his head and said sadly, "Don't mention it. She left before we came. I think she felt that someone was observing her. Maybe she recognized you." Ren Xiling remembered that she did have contact with Zhao Ru. I've tried my best to be careful. This woman is really powerful. Ren Xiling couldn't help but exclaim, what should we do? There's no other way. Ma Haud shook his head and said, we can only send more people to check the other settlements of the homeless in the city. Lin Feng was stunned. Ma Haud, Zhao Ru already knew that we found her in this place. Do you think she will still sneak into other places? What if we gave up the investigation because we thought she was not in this place, but she actually sneaked into this place? Ma Haud rolled his eyes and said, we can't let go of any possibility. As police officers, we're constantly trying to find even the tiniest clue from seemingly useless work. Ren Xiling patted Lin Feng's shoulder and said, your Ma Haud is stuffing money into your pocket. Why don't you thank him and invite him to dinner? Oh right, I know of a good restaurant nearby. Let's do it today. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. And invite you by the way? Madam. You are so smart. Ren Xiling blinked and said, can we take it away? My Luoqiu hasn't eaten yet. Lin Feng always felt that he might have to eat dirt this month. So he looked at Ma Haud sadly. Unexpectedly, Ma Haud made a phone call at this moment. Hello? Honey, I won't go home for dinner tonight. Yes, Lin Feng, eat. You can't be like this. At a later time, when Ren Xiling got home and took off his shoes, he shouted at the door, boy. Luoqiu? Big boss Luoqiu? Are you there? Have you cooked? I brought some food back for you. Usually, Ren Xiling would not get any response. She was used to it and directly walked into Luoqiu's room. She saw that Luoqiu didn't turn on the lights in the room. He only turned on a desk lamp and sat there, looking at a photo album. What are you looking at? Luoqiu closed the album and put it back in the drawer. He said indifferently, nothing, just some old graduation photos. Graduation photos. Ren Xiling was a little absent-minded. At her age, she also had memories of her youth. But it didn't take long for her to be absent-minded. Eat something? There are sweet and sour pork ribs from Jiangnan. Your Uncle Ma's men invited us to eat a big meal. This was one of Boss Luo's favorite dishes. Luoqiu took it and walked out of the room. Why did you go to that place? Hey, don't mention it. Ren Xiling was a little depressed. She told him what happened during the day, and then said very seriously, I really stayed in the car. If you don't believe me, you can ask old Ma. Sleeper. Luoqiu listened and lowered his head. Do you think of anything? Ren Xiling's eyes lit up. What would I think of? Ren Xiling shrugged. Of course, she didn't think that Luoqiu would think of anything. Then she sighed and sat down. She held her chin with both hands and said rather sadly, my poor information fee. Old Ma is so stingy. He said that he didn't catch the thief, but at least he caught a car thief. He didn't even give me 100 yuan. Is he human? I'll heat up the dishes and make some rice. You're not full yet, Luoqiu said indifferently. How do you know? Ren Xiling was stunned. Luoqiu, do you want to eat or not? Hee, Sub-Editor Ren smiled embarrassedly. She squinted at the balcony and took the initiative to say, I didn't collect clothes today. Let me do it. Boss Luo shook his head and took out a few plates. There were so many dishes in a few boxes. He not only knew that Ren Xiling wasn't full, but also Uncle Ma probably wasn't full. At first glance, it was obvious that these were all dishes directly turned upside down. They worked at sunrise and rested at sunset. They were like the components of the city clock that inherited the oldest living time of human beings. Not many people would pay attention to the scavengers who slept here. What no one paid attention to were these small and low components of the city clock. They didn't even know each other's past. The old man who lived next to Zhao Ru said, they were abandoned by the city. The old man didn't want to say his name, but only said that they could call him Uncle Mai. But when he talked about his grandson, he proudly introduced him. This is my Xiao Jun, my grandson. It was almost 9 o'clock in the evening. Uncle Mai took his grandson to a nearby public toilet to take a bath. My Xiaojun was still in school. It was said that he had received some help from the society. Therefore, when Uncle Mai came back, he brought back a bucket of water especially for my Xiaojun to wash his wound. My Xiaojun opened the small folding table and sat on a small plastic stool. Uncle Mai lit an oil lamp for him, and he started to do his homework. After a while, some of the other sleepers came over and started to chat with Uncle Mai, who was washing clothes. They talked about what they had seen and heard in the city during the daytime. Zhao Ru suddenly walked out of her cardboard box and came to Uncle Mai. "Uncle Mai, let me help you." No need. I won't let you do it." Uncle Mai shook his head. Zhao Ru smiled. "Uncle Mai, didn't you just invite me to eat buns? I can't just sit around and do nothing." At this time, the few old men who had gathered together all laughed heartily. Although they didn't know why such a young girl came to this place, they were impressed by her beautiful smile. Uncle Mai didn't insist, so he gave up his position and let Zhao Ru do it. At the same time, he knew that the new girl's name was Xiao Ru. When it was a little late, Uncle Mai couldn't help asking, "Xiao Ru, you're still young." Why, Zhao Ru was drying clothes and said indifferently, "You said that the people here were abandoned, right?" Uncle Mai didn't ask more. The people here all had their past that they didn't want others to know. This evening, his grandson was happier than usual because Zhao Ru helped him with his homework. The elders blamed themselves for not being able to guide their grandson's homework, causing him to be unable to keep up with his grade. Seeing that his grandson was happy, the old man slept soundly. In the morning, Uncle Mai woke up as usual. It didn't matter if the work started later, but the old man had to send his grandson to school, so he got up early. Uncle Mai met two policemen when he came back. They walked towards him, took out a photo, and asked directly, "Have you seen this person before?" The girl in the photo didn't smile, but she was young. She was Zhao Ru. Uncle Mai didn't answer immediately, but frowned. "Sir, what did she do?" The policeman didn't want to say more. "She's a fugitive, very dangerous. We suspect that she's hiding nearby. Have you seen her?" "No." Uncle Mai shook his head. The old man knew how to make himself look natural. "No." This was the old man's answer. The policeman nodded and didn't care. "Oh, that's good. But if you see her, you must inform us at once. We'll get a reward if we catch her." Uncle Mai just smiled and didn't ask how much the reward was. Only after the two police officers left did he walk into the alley where he was staying. The old man went back to his house. After packing up, he looked at the house next to his. Uncle Mai looked at the girl who had not woken up and was curled up. He gently placed 2 buns in front of her door. He had bought it on the way back from sending my Xiaojun to school. For Uncle Mai, there was no Zhao Ru here, only a little girl. She said that she was also an abandoned person. The people here were all abandoned people, none of them had a past. That was all. To be continued. Chapter 379. A total of 7 cards were placed in front of Luochio. These cards were sent by Black Soul number 18 twice. Black Soul Envoy didn't dare to urge the boss. So if the boss didn't want to, these cards could just be piled up here. He didn't know if the previous boss had the habit of piling up cards, but from this year onwards, it was obvious that he had. It went back to the transaction rules of the club. Those were the customers who would walk in by themselves and had the strongest desire to buy. Those who were found by the Black Soul Envoy were the customers who had strong purchasing power. Of course, they could be the customers because they had more or less purchasing power than ordinary people. Once the boss chose the customers, the Black Soul Envoy would take the next step and magnify the customer's desire. But the whole process would be like ding-dong-shing. The customers would be in a wonderful state. With a little push, they would be able to meet the requirements of the club. Black Soul number 18 was obviously a veteran among the Black Soul envoys. She was smart enough to consider that the new boss would pile up cards. So she wouldn't let go of a customer who was about to change qualitatively, because it was also part of the performance. Dai Yu Kai Su Zhao Ding Dong Sheng. Well, Zhaoru. It was obvious that the names of these 4 people were among the 7 gold cards. One of them was the boss of a cram school who was wanted, one of them was detained by the police, one of them was emotionally unstable, and one of them was a student who had a record of making a deal with a girl he loved not long ago, and one of them was a woman who was hiding in a homeless settlement and was also a fugitive. Of course, there were 3 other strange names, but this old employee seems to be very good at finding as many potential investors as possible for the same thing. This is the usual method of black soul number 18. The servant girl who was pouring tea said softly, "The relationship between people, enemies, and 2 sides of contradiction is a spiral. It's easy to drag people into the abyss." Luoqiu smiled. He suddenly gathered the cards in his hand and shuffled them several times like playing cards. Then he spread them out on the table one by one. He then looked at the servant girl and said, "Come, you pick one." Yu Yi looked at her master in confusion, but she would never not respond to her master's request. Miss Maid didn't say anything. She reached out and swiped the cards casually. Of course, she wouldn't peek at who was on the cards. It's like a game of leaving decisions to chance. Miss Servant Girl directly picked up the middle one and turned it over. Yu Yi glanced at it and then softly said the name displayed on the gold master card. Zhaoru. Luoqiu pushed the table and the chair away. Then he stood up and took the gold card from Yu Ye's hand. He chuckled and said, "We can't neglect our old employees who are working so hard. We need to respond." Tai Yinzi was sunbathing on the prison field. His feet were stretched out, and there were people on either side of him gently massaging his thighs. Behind him, Scaly 3 was massaging his back. Tai Yinzi, who had been promoted to the boss of Cabin 18, was eating a watermelon, which was presented to him by one of his subordinates. Who knew how this habit came about? Tai Yinzi only cared about the tribute. Use more strength. Didn't you eat? Didn't you drink milk? Do you want me to ask Fatty Zhang to squeeze some milk for you? Humph. While this black soul envoy was living like a local tyrant, he didn't know that outside the high walls, there was a real black soul big boss coldly observing him. It seems that he is not a threat. Black soul number 18 glanced at him casually, then she shook her head and disappeared quickly. As an old employee, it was not strange for her to pay attention to the newcomer. Black soul number 18 was almost certain that this new messenger couldn't threaten her position, even though her previous position might no longer exist after the change of master. When Black Soul number 18 was about to continue wandering in this city to find more potential customers, she suddenly stopped. After stopping, Black Soul number 18 crossed her hands and stuck them in front of her body. Her expression became extremely focused. At the same time, a card emitting a faint white light appeared out of thin air, slowly falling in front of her. This was the information card of potential customers. When the card slowly fell to the level of her eyes, Black Soul number 18 lowered her head and respectfully stretched out her hands to receive the card. The moment the card was in her hands, it turned into a pitch-black color. Black Soul number 18's eyes suddenly brightened. Finally, one of the 7 cards got a response, so her efforts were not in vain. After receiving this black card, Black Soul number 18 looked back at the high wall of the prison, giving a disdainful sneer, and then left this place. Boss Feng, is this strength appropriate? Scabby 3, who was knocking on Zhang Tai's back, said with a flattering smile. But Taiyinzi suddenly shuddered, sitting up at once. He felt that someone was peeping at him. Is it the master? Is the master unhappy with my action here? The more Tai Yinzi thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. His face changed slightly, and he stood up without saying a word. He lowered his head and walked to the cabin where he lived. He didn't even answer the questions of the underlings behind him. Seeing this, Fatty Zhang slapped Scabby 3's head, scolding, "Scabby 3, did you annoy Boss Feng?" I didn't. No? If you didn't, Why did Boss Feng suddenly change his attitude? Tell me, did you do something wrong? I really didn't. Fatty Zhang, don't hit Scabby 3, it's none of his business. At this time, a voice came from Fatty Zhang's back. It was Zhou Xiaoquan's voice. Fatty Zhang knew that Zhou Xiaoquan had a good relationship with Old Feng, so he said with a smile, Brother Zhou, you are here. Do you know why Boss Feng is unhappy? Fatty Zhang felt that this old man who had been in prison for more than 10 years must be a peerless master. Fatty Zhang would be released after 2 or 3 years, so he wanted to seize this opportunity. If he could learn some skills from this old man, he would be a dragon in the sea after he was released. Of course I know why my brother is unhappy. Zhou Xiaoquan shook his head and sighed. Don't be fooled by my brother's appearance. He wasn't like this before. But he was stimulated recently, so he became abnormal. Fatty Zhang picked up a piece of watermelon and swept the chair. Brother Zhou, come, sit down and eat the watermelon to moisten your throat. Let's talk slowly. When had Zhou Xiaoquan been treated so politely by these prison bullies? All of a sudden, he felt as if he was floating. He couldn't help but say, this brother of mine is doing all this for his daughter. Daughter? Let me tell you something. My brother actually has a daughter outside. Zhou Xiaoquan slowly told a lot of stories and finally sighed. My brother's daughter doesn't want to see him, so I'm afraid they won't recognize each other in this life. My brother is suffering in his heart. How can he not be like this? What are you doing? What's wrong with me? Brother Zhou? Fatty Zhang looked around blankly. F***CK, Scabby 3, what are you doing? Why are you crying? Boss, aren't you crying too? Fatty Zhang hurriedly wiped his face with his sleeve, then stood up and sighed. I didn't expect Master to have such a heart-wrenching story. He looked at the direction where Taiyinzi left, and patted his chest hard. Master, don't worry, your business is my business. I'll definitely let your daughter come to see you. Master, don't worry. Zhou Xiaoquan was stunned. He didn't ask how Fatty Zhang was going to help, but asked curiously, well, when did you become my brother's apprentice? Chapter 380. A few years ago, in the guest department of the hotel, a group of girls were congratulating a girl who had just been promoted to a supervisor. Everyone in the office was very happy and congratulated her. But she quietly walked to the deputy manager's office. She knocked on the door and looked at the deputy manager who always took care of her. She wanted to say something. The deputy manager was in charge of the promotion of human resources. Of course, it was a relatively low-level position. As for the management level and above, this deputy manager had nothing to do with it. But the deputy manager seemed to know the reason why the girl knocked on the door and came in, so he said apologetically, Zhao Ru, don't be discouraged. You will have another chance next time. Didn't we agree? The girl lowered her head and her hands unconsciously grasped the corner of her clothes. Alas, in fact, I also wanted to promote you. The deputy manager shook his head. The girl in front of him was very hard-working and responsible. Her work was also very good. Then, according to the company's regulations, your education is not enough. The deputy manager shook his head and said, You meet all the requirements except for this. Her work is not as good as mine and her experience is not as good as mine. Is it because of a diploma? The deputy manager shook his head and sighed. Some of the company's regulations are rigid, but you have been working for many years. Why don't you choose to increase your value? If you are only an adult college student, as long as you are willing, you will have a chance. How about this? The hotel plans to expand the guest department in the second half of the year. I will propose to add one more assistant. But before the manager finished his words, the girl in front of him shook her head and said expressionlessly, No need. In the girl's mind, even if the team was expanded in the second half of the year, even if there was a new assistant, it would not fall on her. She had been working in this hotel for more than a year. She had been working in the guest department for the longest time in the whole department. She had experienced the resignation of 2 supervisors, but it did not fall on her. Increase her value? She also wanted to, but the conditions did not allow such a small salary. She had not learned any skills and started to work after graduating from high school. At the beginning, she was earning 2 or 3,000 yuan a month. But now, she only found a job that paid 3 or 4,000 yuan a month. For college students, the difficulty of finding a job seemed to be a perennial problem. For someone like her who had just graduated from high school, it was even more difficult. Her colleagues were still celebrating their promotion in the office, but she was hiding in the back staircase alone. It wasn't the first time anyway. And this company was not the first one. She silently looked at the message on her phone. His family was going to send money back again. Zhao Ru had a dream. It had been a long time since she had a dream. She dreamed of things that she didn't want to think about. This sudden dream made her wake up earlier than usual. Why would he have such a dream? It shouldn't be. This caused her to be unable to calm down even when she woke up. However, she soon calmed down. This was because she habitually reached out to hold the crystal pendant on her body. Ever since she had it, she had always been able to calm down. Zhao Ru woke up early and saw Uncle Mai tidying up his grandson. Uncle Mai was going to send Mai Xiaojun to school. Sister Xiaoru. Seeing this, Mai Xiaojun shouted with a smile. Uncle Mai also smiled kindly. Miss, you woke up so early today. Zhao Ru nodded and went back to her house. Uncle Mai hesitated for a while, and then said in a low voice, Xiaoru, it's not safe outside. Don't go out if you have nothing to do. He seemed to be reminding her of something. Zhao Ru looked at Uncle Mai and said nothing. After a while, she nodded slightly. Uncle Mai waved his hand and asked his grandson to go out of the alley and wait for him. Then he sat down. The old man took out a wrinkled cigarette from his pocket and lit it. He suddenly said, Some people here don't even have names and don't talk with others. Do you know why? Why? The old man thought for a while, then said indifferently, Because there is no place for us to stay outside, including here. In fact, it is not a place for us to stay. But why are we here? Because we all want a place to stay. Zhao Ru didn't say anything. The old man patted her on the back of her hand and then stood up. He bent over and said, You can stay here as long as you want. When you want to leave, you can leave. The old man was going to send his grandson to school. For the old man, this was probably the most important thing in his life. Zhao Ru stayed in the house alone for half an hour. She put on the hood of her clothes and left from the other side of the alley with her head lowered. She didn't know that there was a wisp of black smoke that ordinary people couldn't see following her. Officer Ma felt that he was going to explode. Of course, it was not because the minesweeper failed again, but because the fugitive had escaped for a whole week and still nothing was found. Could it be that this person can turn invisible? At this time, the door of the office was opened and Lin Feng walked in with a document. Ma Haud asked directly, Any news? Lin Feng shook his head and said, Ma Haud, we haven't found the fugitive yet. But we found Zhao Ru's family. Tell me. Lin Feng opened the document and said, Zhao Ru's parents are still alive and she has a younger brother. But they all live in other provinces. Her parents are farmers. As for her younger brother, he didn't graduate from a junior college. It seems that he was expelled by the school because of fighting. According to her parents, Zhao Ru came out to work after graduating from high school. In the beginning, she would send money to her family regularly. But one time when she went home for Chinese New Year, she had a quarrel with her family and never contacted them again. She doesn't have a good relationship with her family. Ma Haud nodded and frowned. Do you know why she had a quarrel with her family? Lin Feng shrugged and said, Her father was the one who asked, but the other party directly hung up on me. But I didn't tell him in detail. I just said that she was temporarily missing. Lin Feng shook his head, but her father's reaction was a bit dull, just oh. Oh, I did. Ma Haud rubbed his eyebrows. Have you asked about Zhao Ru's school? What's her personality like? Lin Feng said, I've also called to ask. According to her former head teacher, Zhao Ru's academic performance was very good, and she was also a good person. She was admitted to a good university, but no one knew why she didn't go to school later. Instead, she chose to work. The teacher said that it was a pity. He said that her family had let her down. Those who should go to school were not allowed to go to school, and those who shouldn't go to school went to school instead. Lin Feng said. Another policeman hurried in and said, Ma Haud, a student in the cram school, just called. She said she received a threatening letter. Where is she? Ma Haud ignored the document in Lin Feng's hand and asked directly. The student said that she could only talk about it in private. She didn't want too many people, especially her parents, to know about it. She hoped that we could help her. Okay, I'll go there now. Ma Haud nodded. As soon as he walked out of the office, he bumped into Wang Yuechuan. Ma Yu looked at this guy and felt that he was like a police dog. It seemed that he had smelled something, so he walked out of the meeting room opposite him. Sure enough, before Ma Haud could say anything, Wang Yuechuan said, I heard your conversation. Officer Ma, I'll go with you. Ma Haud thought for a while and agreed. They left the police station together with Lin Feng. In the prison, a man with a tiger tattoo on his arm was meeting with Fatty Zhang. Boss, why are you in such a hurry? Don't you have enough money? The strong man asked directly. Idiot. Fatty Zhang rolled his eyes. I tried so hard to send you a message to ask you to meet me. Do you think it's only because of money? Although the things here are illegal, it's still enough. The strong man had to scratch his head. Then what's the matter? Fatty Zhang moved closer and whispered, Listen carefully. If you miss a word, I won't let you go. The strong man patted his chest and said, Boss, your business is my business. If you didn't take me in those days, I would still be stealing manhole covers on the street. Fatty Zhang nodded and said seriously, Listen, Chang Zi, you go to see a man named Zhou Xiaoping first. He lives in. After you see him, ask him to take you to find a woman. Then, you bring the woman here. The strong man. Chang Zi scratched his head. Hey boss, is there a man named Zhou Xiaoping among the prostitutes we know? That's not right. The couple's room hasn't been opened this month. Boss, you can't wait anymore? Chang Zi, do you know what I want to do now? What? Chapter 381. Gradually, Black Soul number 18 found that the man in front of her was not easy to tempt. There was some kind of power protecting her. To be exact, there was some kind of power similar to Black Soul number 18, which was also tempting Zhao Ru. Of course, for Black Soul number 18, this power was so weak that she even disdained to destroy it. How could the Black Soul envoy of the club be unable to arouse Zhao Ru's desire to make a deal because of this weak power? Although there were not many Black Soul envoys in the club, the remaining Black Soul envoys were the real elites of the club. If the news that Black Soul number 18 couldn't even resist this weak power spread out, she would lose her face. Although I don't know how you got this necklace. It doesn't matter. Haha. The gloomy laughter was heard. But Zhao Ru didn't hear it. She only passed by a bookstore occasionally and stopped in her tracks. She didn't know what was driving her. She walked in. But soon, she walked out again, this time with a bag in her hand. She probably bought something in the bookstore. Black Soul number 18 didn't care about what she bought. She just glanced at the bookstore. Xinhua bookstore. In the evening, my Xiaojun and his grandpa came back. For my Xiaojun, all the people he knew in the alley were either the same age as his grandpa or in their 30s or 40s. It was the first time for him to see such a young elder sister in such a place. Except for the female students and the female teachers, it was the first time for my Xiaojun to be so close to a woman. His intuition told him that this elder sister was different from others. But he couldn't tell. He just felt that Miss Zhao Ru had never smiled before. Although, she just came here for a few days. Uncle Mai seemed to have a good harvest today. When he came back, He bought a cheap pig liver in the market. Now he was fiddling with the stove, planning to cook a dish of fried pig liver. The other scavengers in the alley. The sleepers also began to prepare their dinner more or less. Soon, there were all kinds of fragrant smells here. But my Xiaojun, who was doing his homework, wasn't attracted by the fragrant smells as usual. He just curiously peeked at this new big sister. She would not take the initiative to talk to others, even at this time of dinner. She was alone, hiding in the house, tearing off a small piece of bread and putting it into her mouth. My Xiaojun didn't feel that Sister Xiaoru's bread was warm. It seemed that everything was so cold. She seemed to be thinking about something. The people who lived here had always abided by a rule that no one had agreed upon. They did not take the initiative to inquire about other people's affairs. If they wanted to talk, they would talk about what they had seen and heard on that day or yesterday. However, my Xiaojun was never willing to follow this strange rule. He was still in the period of intense curiosity about everything. Sister Xiaoru, are you thinking about your parents? However, he was only in the 4th grade of elementary school. That was all he could think of. Xiaoru didn't answer immediately. She just stopped and looked at the child indifferently. These days, she lived next door to her. In fact, she could even hear the child's breathing when she slept. Do you miss your parents? Xiaoru suddenly asked. My Xiaojun was rarely asked this question. He didn't know how to answer it for a while. He held his textbook and sat in front of Sister Xiaoru's door. The floor was covered with paper. Well, sometimes. My Xiaojun quietly peeked out and glanced at his grandfather's back. Then he whispered, Sister Xiaoru, I'll tell you a secret. Can you keep it a secret? Then don't say it. My Xiaojun opened his mouth. It seemed that he didn't expect such an answer. It shouldn't be. Didn't the friends at school care about secrets when they shared it? My grandfather said that as long as I study hard, my parents will come to me when I enter the university. Didn't I tell you not to say it? Xiaoru shook her head. I will forget it. Oh. My Xiaojun lowered his head in disappointment. Xiaoru glanced at him and suddenly said, Show me your homework. Thank you, Sister Xiaoru. My Xiaojun was overjoyed. He found that this sister was more clear than the teachers at school. He couldn't wait and even took the initiative to crawl into Sister Xiaoru's house. Don't come in. Xiaoru stopped him. Go outside, it's too dark here. My Xiaojun didn't feel anything wrong. He nodded and crawled out. Therefore, my Xiaojun didn't see that Sister Xiaoru seemed to hide something. She hid it under her coat. It was quiet in the alley at night. Everyone had fallen asleep, including Xiaoru. But there seemed to be something floating around her, like a shadow. The shadow seemed to be sizing up Xiaoru. Seeing the sweat on Xiaoru's forehead even though she was asleep, the shadow subconsciously let out a gloomy and terrifying laugh. Because the shadow knew that Xiaoru was dreaming about her past. In her dream, she returned to her home in another province. She returned to the night of New Year's Eve. She rushed back home during the spring festival. Unknowingly, in her sleep, she even grabbed her clothes with all her might. Her eyeballs under her eyelids began to move, and the creepy laughter became more and more terrifying. Of course, no one could hear it. Perhaps. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The shadow left the shabby house. The shadow moved stealthily on the ground until it had completely left the small alley. Only then did it reveal its true form by the side of the road. A black robe covered his entire body. Only a pair of bewitching eyes that glowed with a cat-like luster could be seen clearly. This pair of cat-like eyes was sizing up the area in front of them. In front of them, a bespectacled man was standing there quietly with his hands behind his back. It seemed that he had been waiting for a long time. The man was also looking at the weird shadow in front of him. Now it was a guy in a black robe. He asked quickly, Is it an evil soul? Or something like a resentful spirit? He said indifferently and shook his head. It doesn't matter. You'll disappear anyway. Ha ha ha, I've sensed that someone has been following this woman. Ha ha ha, It seems that the crystal on her body was given by you? The bespectacled man chuckled. No matter where you came from, you're still a few years too early to have any ideas about this beautiful material of mine. After saying that, he suddenly opened the 5 fingers of his left hand, and from his sleeve, 5 small black water crystals slid down. These crystals stopped in his palm and didn't fall down. Instead, they floated in the air. With a few whooshing sounds, these crystals shot out almost at the same time. The crystals shot to 5 different positions, 4 on the ground and 1 in the air. The 5 points formed a short 4-sided triangular point. They connected with each other and finally formed a 3-dimensional 4-sided triangular barrier. The man with glasses came over again with his hands clasped behind his back and said with a faint smile, "You can be the core of the next crystal, if you're strong enough." However, his words stopped there. A crack had suddenly appeared on this barrier that he had used to capture wandering souls and ghosts. It had worked every single time. The crack was expanding rapidly, extremely fast. In just the blink of an eye after the first crack appeared, the entire barrier had shattered, including the 5 crystals that were used to construct it. They all shattered at the same time. "Ha ha ha, I thought I met an interesting guy. It turns out that you're just a clown who has learned a little bit of magic. Ha ha ha." The man's expression changed slightly, and he subconsciously took a few steps back. At the same time, he lowered his hands, and more crystals fell from his sleeves, floating in his palms. Chapter 382. But the man obviously didn't listen to the strange ghost's words. That barrier wasn't one of his means, but one of the means to capture the target, a gentle means. "I haven't heard of the Inquisition, but if you don't mind, I have a fire to burn you." The man sneered. The crystal that he had prepared in his palm suddenly shot out like a bullet. The crystal particles had the power to penetrate a 1 centimeter thick steel plate. Normal dynamic vision couldn't capture their trajectory at all. But just as the crystal particles were about to pierce through the black-robed figure, it suddenly turned into a cloud of black smoke and dissipated. The crystal particles penetrated through and gathered together. In this way, it easily avoided the attack. Only then did the man realize the danger he was in, but he remained calm. A large number of crystals fell from his sleeves again. His lips opened and closed at lightning speed, and his body maintained a rapid retreat. However, he had no choice but to stop. It was only a distance of 5 steps. This thing wearing a black robe, with eyes like a black cat, had unknowingly appeared directly in front of the man. They were practically sticking to each other. "That's why I said you're a dabbler, ha ha ha, a first-class magician can't recite the spell for more than 1 second. The crystal was still wrapped around the man's palm, but there was already a huge hole in his chest. The man's consciousness seemed to react at this time. He lowered his head subconsciously, looking at the horrible wound on his body, but he frowned. "What the hell are you?" He was staring at it. His body was completely crystallized at this moment. Then, like tempered glass being shattered, his body scattered into crystal particles. The crystal particles were still bouncing on the ground. "It in a black robe, she." Black Soul number 18 laughed gloomily again. "It's not bad for a dabbler, at least you know how to use this substitute magic." This man, from the beginning, was not his real body. However, Black Soul number 18 didn't intend to chase after the man's real body. She always put the work that needed to be done first. If this man fled in panic and didn't show up again, it would save her a lot of trouble. However, if he continued to pester her relentlessly, it wouldn't be a big deal to her. This was because, regardless of whether it was a substitute or the original, it was only a matter of a single slap. If 1 slap was not enough, then 2 slaps would be enough. It was that simple. The most important thing was that the dream she had constructed had never been shaken from the very beginning. It was the dream of her patron's past. She once again turned into a shadow and snuck into the deserted alley. "GGG. The only thing that made Zhao Ru feel a sense of belonging was that she had earned more than half of the money to build the 2-story house in the village. After the new year, a 3rd floor would be built here. Looking at it from a distance, Zhao Ru felt a sense of satisfaction. "Hey Zhao Ru, you're back. Long time no see, come on home." Along the way there were some acquaintances. Although this place was a bit backward, it wasn't as desolate as the city. Although that was the case, the end of the year was difficult. Behind the smiles of these neighbors, there was a hidden bitterness. Everyone had probably experienced it before. For those who went out to work, it was not easy to come back home. Zhao Ru saw her father, mother, and younger brother. This was the only time she saw her family in the whole year. This should be a New Year's meal that people would remember for a long time. "Brother, when will you start school?" Her mother cut off a whole drumstick for Zhao Ru and put it in the big rooster bowl in front of her. But she looked at her brother with concern. Her brother lowered his head and ate a few mouthfuls of rice, murmuring, "I don't need to start school." "I don't need to start school?" Zhao Ru was stunned and didn't understand. Her father said, "Oh, your brother means that he doesn't need to start school in a hurry. He can stay for a few more days to accompany you." Zhao Ru smiled. She felt warm. "Silly, when I go to work, your winter vacation will not be over. I have to catch the train back on the 5th day of the new year." Unexpectedly, her brother put down his chopsticks. "Dad, why don't you just tell me that I quit school?" When saying this, Zhao Ru's mother's eyes didn't work. Zhao Ru clearly felt the sudden uncomfortable atmosphere at the table. "Quit school?" Zhao Ru paused. She didn't know why she had an impulse. But she held back the impulse and took a deep breath to calm down. "Why did you quit school? Aren't you doing well in school?" "It's fine. Anyway, I can't learn anything," her brother said while eating rice. "The tuition of a junior college is very expensive and there is no good company for graduation. I quit school and go to work early." "No. No matter how expensive the tuition is, you have been studying for so long," Zhao Ru said in a low voice. "You have to go back to school. You will graduate next year. How can you quit school at this time? After the new year, I will talk to your teachers at school. The tuition of these years can't be in vain." "It's not necessary." Her brother shook his head. Under the table, Zhao Ru's mother kept kicking her brother. "Are you hiding something from me?" Zhao Ru felt her mother's little trick. "No, no." Zhao Ru's mother hurriedly said, "Eat, eat. Don't talk about these things during the new year. Tell me about your younger brother tomorrow. Tell me tomorrow." "No. Tell me now," Zhao Ru said in a low voice, "otherwise I won't eat this meal." "Well, you don't want to tell me, right? I will ask others. I don't believe that no one knows." Seeing Zhao Ru leaving the table, Zhao Ru's father slapped the table and said, "Come back. Don't you think it's shameful enough? Your brother beat someone up in school and injured someone, that's why he was expelled. What are you doing? Beat someone?" Zhao Ru suddenly turned back and looked at her brother. "Who did you beat? Why did you beat them?" "They flirted with me first. They deserved to be beaten to death. Will you die if you don't talk?" Zhao Ru's father slapped her brother's face and said angrily, "You beat them and they were hospitalized. You think it's not enough? You want to beat them to death, right? You shameless thing." "What?" Zhao Ru suddenly looked at her father. "Nothing." Zhao Ru's father became silent and poured wine for himself. "Say it. What 30,000 yuan?" Zhao Ru questioned. "Where did you get so much money? Say it, Mom. Say it." "I borrowed it. I borrowed it from someone." "Who?" From the neighbor." "Stop it." Zhao Ru wiped her face. "I know where the money came from. I gave it to you, right?" Zhao Ru's mother lowered her head. "I used the money to build the house. You asked me for the money last time. It was you guys who sent me a message last time telling me that the government was going to give me a subsidy for the 3rd floor. I thought. Zhao Ru suddenly roared, "I'm so stupid. How could I believe you?" "That's enough," Zhao Ru's father said angrily. What's wrong with using your money to help your brother? Isn't he your relative? You only care about this 30,000 yuan? I don't help him? You say I don't help him? Zhao Ru pointed at her father and said angrily, Who paid for his tuition these years? This house has a second floor. You said it was for him to marry a wife in the future. Who paid for it? At that time, who asked me not to go to college and leave the money for him? Who? You. How can you treat me like this? Am I not your biological daughter? Slap. Zhao Ru's father slapped Zhao Ru's face and said with his eyes wide open, Who taught you that? How can you talk to your father like this? Zhao Ru laughed. She covered her face and smiled. No one taught me that. I learned it myself. She turned back to her room without saying anything. Soon she came out with a suitcase and was about to go out. Zhao Ru's mother cried, Zhao Ru, don't be like this. Calm down. Your father's temper is like this. No need. Zhao Ru took a deep breath slowly. I won't come back. Keep the drumstick for your son to eat. Go away. Zhao Ru's father angrily pointed at her. Go away if you dare. Don't come back. Don't worry, I won't come back. Setting off firecrackers, the sound of firecrackers for the new year filled every household in the village. She came back in the afternoon. She left in the evening. She suddenly opened her eyes and found herself in a cold sweat. But she was still in this shabby house. It was still dark. It was probably midnight. Zhao Ru subconsciously grabbed the crystal necklace she was wearing. However, she realized that this crystal did not seem to be able to calm her down quickly and deeply like it usually did. His name was Chao Yu. At least, he didn't need to change his name since he used this name last time. He suddenly opened his eyes. In front of him, a crystal figurine carved out of crystal suddenly cracked and split into two halves. Chao Yu frowned. It took him a lot of time and materials to make this figurine. The damage to the avatar had obviously caused some damage to his mental state as well. He instinctively felt something wrong and uneasy. This was something that had never happened to him since he had obtained this power. Chao Yu took a deep breath and hurriedly took out a sealed and heavy ancient book from the drawer. He began to open this ancient book, hoping to find some clues. This ancient book was the source of his power. Since 10 years ago, when he was studying abroad, he accidentally found this ancient book in an antique shop. His life had undergone an earth-shattering change. It seemed that he was chosen by this ancient book, because he happened to find that he could translate the ancient Egyptian in this ancient book. Chapter 383. This was the second time that Sir Ma and Wang Yuechuan met the girl in front of them. Apparently, she was more scared than the last time. The first time she reported the case was after she received the first threatening letter. Now it was the third time. Are you still in school this time? Ma Hao looked at the girl in front of him, frowning and asking. She could only nod in fear. She didn't dare to tell her parents. Since the cram school was closed, not only her, but also the other students had more or less guessed something. These days, the students who only knew each other had tried their best not to have too much contact with each other. Sir, I heard that those who jumped off the building were. Sir, I don't want to die, help me. I know I'm wrong, please, I know I'm wrong. Don't worry, we'll protect you. Ma Hao said seriously. After we met last time, I asked someone to protect you secretly. Once a bad guy approaches you, he will be caught. Don't worry. However, the female student was still frightened and said, But why can this thing be sent to the school? This was what Sir Ma couldn't do. The threatening letter was sent directly to the entrance of the school. This was something that was sent by mail. But when they contacted the post office, there was no video of Zhao Ru at the front desk. It could only be said that she sent it to another mailbox. But the problem was that they also asked someone to keep an eye on the mailbox 24 hours a day. But there were so many people who put things in the mailbox every day that it was impossible to know who was who. Besides, they couldn't interrogate a person who put a letter in the mailbox. That would only alert the enemy. Do you want to solve this problem? Wang Yuechuan suddenly asked. The girl was stunned. It was the second time that she met this officer. He had a cold face, but he was also very handsome. Last time, he didn't say a word, but just listened. This time, it was the first time that he spoke. She looked at Wang Yuechuan and nodded subconsciously. His cold and handsome face made her feel like her heart was racing. Compared with the middle-aged officer Ma, who had a big belly and beard, he seemed much more reliable. Then do us a favor, Wang Yuechuan said indifferently. I want you to prepare a suicide. Ma Hao didn't say anything to Wang Yuechuan in front of the girl. But when he was sent away, Ma Hao frowned and said, Comrade Wang Yuechuan, I think you are too reckless. How could you let a student do such a thing? It's too dangerous. If we can't catch her, the other students will be in danger too. Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, Today it's her, tomorrow it's another one. There was more than one student on the list of names. But I'm the only one who's willing to cooperate. That's true. Ma Hao still didn't agree, but can you guarantee that Zhao Ru won't hide somewhere? She forced the students to commit suicide every time, but what if she didn't threaten them but did it herself? Comrade Wang Yuechuan, do you know? Only one time. It's a risk of a life. She only needs to respond. Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, according to the past data, this kind of threatening letter will be deepened step by step. When the victim's spirit is about to collapse, they will receive the final order to commit suicide. When the order comes, the person on the rooftop will be me. Different scavengers had their fixed scavenging spots in this city. Strictly speaking, it was like a territory. This was one of Uncle Mai's territories. Why are there so many rappers today? Old Mai said happily. The staff who brought Old Mai here said casually. Yes, many people opened their packages and threw them away. Oh, by the way, there are still some leftovers in there. I don't want them. See if there's anything you can pick up. Oh, okay. As he spoke, Old Mai patted his grandson. He had just picked him up from school and was on his way back. Xiaojun, stay there for a while. Grandpa will go back soon. Just like that, my Xiaojun skipped out. He would pass by here almost every day. My Xiaojun turned back to look at his grandfather. While his grandfather wasn't paying attention, he quietly slipped an envelope into the mailbox outside the door. Sister Xiao Ru said not to let others find out, and treat him to 2 crispy sharks every day. It's late. It's late? When old Feng came back to his senses, he found that it was already dark. Obviously, the light coming in through the window was no longer enough for him to continue the work at hand. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes hard. On the table in front of him, there was a phoenix embroidered on the top of the embroidered dress. But there were more patterns of phoenixes and auspicious clouds waiting for him. What was really time-consuming was these patterns. Old Feng was about to turn on the light when he heard someone knocking on the door. Old Feng's heart skipped a beat. It was very quiet here. No one lived in this building. Usually, he would only turn on the small table lamp and close the curtains. Who would come looking for him? Obviously, it was not Zhou Zihao because it was not the appointed time. Old Feng didn't say anything. He walked slowly to the small hole in front of the door to see who was outside. It was the boss. Old Feng hesitated, but chose to open the door. In his opinion, if this mysterious boss wanted to come in, it probably wouldn't be a difficult thing. But why did he come here? Old Feng didn't want to unveil the mysterious boss's mask, nor did he want to know who he was. But he still wanted to know, are you looking for me? At the very least, other than the elderly, no one else lives here, right? The club's boss said softly. Sometimes we do some after-sales tracking work. Don't worry, I'm just looking. Oh, have you eaten? I brought you something to eat. Old Feng asked the man to come in. The boss of the club was indeed carrying a lunchbox. Old Feng smelled something familiar. Boss Luo looked around the living room and saw Old Feng's stupefied look. he said calmly. This is knife-shaved noodles from the noodle shop downstairs. The neighbors said the taste hasn't changed after so many years. That shop. Old Feng recalled and nodded. Yes, it was here when I moved here. In the past, when I was busy and didn't have time to cook, I would go there. 2 people, the daughter and the father. Old Feng remembered something that happened a long time ago. Speaking of which, the boss of that noodle shop also made clothes for his daughter when she got married. Old Feng subconsciously looked at the old photos that he stuck on the wall. That should have been a very good time. They all have beautiful smiles. Luoqiu walked to Old Feng. Can you tell me their story? Story? Old Feng gave a start. Luoqiu nodded with a smile. It's the cost of this meal. I'll treat you to dinner and you can tell me their story. Of course, I won't disturb you during the meal. Maybe it was the fragrance of the noodles in the memory. Maybe he was lonely and wanted to chat with someone. Maybe he didn't have much time for a meal. Old Feng nodded. Well, who do you want to know? Well, how about this one? Boss Luo pointed at the photo on the wall. It was a woman with a gentle smile. Old Feng walked to the workbench and put on his glasses. He took down the photo and looked at it carefully under the desk lamp. He nodded. Yes, I have some impression of this woman. I remember now. I even have an impression of her husband. Old Feng sighed. She left a deep impression on me. Luoqiu asked curiously, Really? Why? Old Feng smiled bitterly. I was caught by her husband. How can I not remember her? Did you know this beforehand? That's why you picked this photo, right? Luoqiu shook his head. He just wanted to hear a story. It was a story about how his birth mother had once been here. Since it will remind you of something unpleasant, you can choose another one. No. Old Feng shook his head and sat down slowly. I have said that I deserved it. I don't want to hate anyone. I have been tortured for decades by the things I did. It's a relief to be caught in prison. Since you want to hear it, I'll tell you. Go ahead. Luoqiu poured a glass of water for Old Feng. Old Feng was flattered, but he didn't drink it. He thought for a while and said, Well, I forgot the name. But I do remember that the 2 of them came together that day, and they were carrying a child. It should have been born not long ago. Baby? Luoqiu gave a start. Old Feng nodded. The baby was born not long ago. The man said that he didn't have time to hold a wedding because of his work. So he came here to make a wedding dress. He wanted to make it up to her. Almost no one would bring a baby here to make a wedding dress, so I can remember it. The baby was very obedient and never cried. Well, one time, the woman brought the baby here to try on clothes. After she died, the baby fell from the chair, the sofa. His mother was scared, but he didn't cry. Let me think. Oh, the woman always wore a butterfly and blue hairpin. Luoqiu listened quietly. He knew that Old Feng could remember more and he didn't hate anyone. He also knew. He had been here before. Chapter 384. Luoqiu finished the bowl of knife-shaved noodles he bought from the noodle house. Old Feng was immersed in the memory. The taste of the knife-shaved noodles and the story he told. The lights in the city were like dominoes. At first, there were only 1 or 2 lights, but now, the whole city was lit up. Old Feng almost finished his story with the woman who brought her child here to make clothes. He drank up the last drop of soup in the bowl. Then he was silent for a while. Finally, he said, Later on, the day they caught me, it happened to be the day that the madam's clothes were completed. Interestingly enough, I had only seen the police officer twice before and after. The first time, he accompanied his wife. The second time was on the day they received the goods, which was also the day they caught me. Luoqiu gradually got out of Old Feng's story. The details of the old man's story were enough for him to replay in the living room of this old house. Do you think that the police officer might have suspected you the first time he saw you? Old Feng smiled and shook his head. Who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe he found out earlier and he just wanted me to finish the dress. Or perhaps he discovered it by accident, so he investigated and collected evidence. He only took action when he had the results, and it just so happened to be the day he completed it. But no matter what the reason is, it's still good for me. Luoqiu nodded thoughtfully. But old Feng still wanted more, because I'm a sinner after all. The extra time is a gift to me. That wasn't the same as now, when she wholeheartedly completed the phoenix gown in her hands. Instead, it was an ordinary custom-made one, so naturally the construction period would be even longer. Naturally, the longer the construction period, the longer the father and daughter stayed in this old house, the longer the life of the father and daughter. Old Feng took off his glasses and rubbed his nose. Then he put them on again. I didn't put up this photo. That day, I asked if I could finish my work before I left. The police officer agreed, and then he took this photo. Old Feng heaved a sigh and said with a complicated expression, I think the police officer must have come back here and put it on the wall after he was exposed to the sun. He has never mentioned this matter to me. He is also a strange person. Never, Luoqiu said softly. This officer used to come to the prison to see me. Old Feng said casually, not long after I was arrested. He would come here a few times a year. Then he would come here once a year. Well, in recent years, he didn't come here. Old Feng smiled and looked at the boss of the club. Maybe he forgot about it. If he is not a close relative, who will remember him for a lifetime? This kind of thing, people like you, how should I put it, special existences like you should know better than me. I'm thinking that time shouldn't mean much to you. You may have seen thousands of times more than I have. He didn't forget you, Luoqiu said. Old Feng was stunned. He wanted to know the answer. It's late. I won't disturb you. Luoqiu stood up. I like your story. I'll come here to listen to other customers' stories when I have time. Of course, I'll bring you some food. I think you often forget about this kind of thing. As he spoke, Old Feng saw a living person gradually appear in front of him and then disappear. Looking at the empty box, Old Feng thought that the boss of this shop could come in without knocking. Anyway, he could leave like this and come in like this. He's also a weird guy. Old Feng shook his head and patted his face to cheer himself up. It was getting late outside, but his work had just begun. He picked up the needle and started to embroider. He had never been so peaceful in the past 10 years. After leaving Old Feng's house, Luoqiu didn't go far. Instead, he went to the noodle shop in the old street and bought 2 bowls of knife-shaved noodles before leaving. He didn't go back to the club, but went back to his home. Not long after he returned, Ren Xiling also came back like a defeated dog as usual. Hey, are we going to eat noodles tonight? Boss Luo poured some vinegar and ignored this woman. They didn't talk while eating. However, he didn't know if his father and mother had tasted such noodles during those years when they occasionally passed by. What would it taste like if they had tasted it? It should be the taste of this moment. Recently, the club had Old Feng, who was in the middle of a transaction and was waiting for the transaction to be completed. At the same time, there was also a financial backer who was being taken over by Black Soul Envoy number 18. The boss didn't say which side he favored. I didn't know you would come in person, Black Soul number 18 didn't know how to say it, because she had never encountered such a situation before. The former boss seldom stepped out of the club. At least, she didn't meet the former boss at her workplace. I heard from Yu Yi that you met some obstacles, right? Luoqiu waved his hand. Don't be so formal, just have a chat. That being said, the Black Soul Envoy didn't dare to be rude to the club's boss. Throughout the countless years, those who dared to be rude to the club's boss were probably buried in graves now. There was only one Black Soul Envoy who dared to voice out some doubts in front of the boss. Occasionally, he would even say a few words. But even so, that person still couldn't resist the boss. That's right. This subordinate has encountered some small problems. This subordinate could have solved it by himself. Black Soul number 18 nodded. But I thought that as a Black Soul envoy, I shouldn't hide anything from you, so I went back to report to Miss Yu Yi. I didn't expect that you would come here. Black Soul No. 18 seemed to be anxious to express something. Don't worry, Master. The other party should be a dabbler magician who learned some magic from who knows where. This subordinate will naturally be able to handle it alone. The magician mentioned by Black Soul number 18 wasn't the kind who could simply make flowers appear from a hat, but the kind of visual magician with special effects. Luoqiu asked curiously, "How do you know he's a dabbler?" Black Soul number 18 said, "Because I didn't see any etiquette of a magician on him. Orthodox magicians are like nobles, whose temperament can be seen at a glance. But he." Black Soul number 18 shook her head, "didn't have any trace of orthodox education. So I speculated that he might have gotten the inheritance of magicians from somewhere and figured it out by himself. Moreover, under normal circumstances, only these unorthodox people would disregard the rules of the world and cause chaos in the society of ordinary people. But those magicians with orthodox education would disdain to do such things. Of course, this did not rule out the possibility that there would be some people with twisted minds among the orthodox, but those were the minority, and even if they did do evil, these orthodox people would not lose their poise. Therefore, even with the above, this subordinate can roughly know that this person is a rogue. You're more experienced than me in this aspect, so I believe your speculation." Luoqiu nodded. At this moment, Black Soul number 18 was shocked. Her boss was omniscient. But what she didn't know was that this boss was a person who was curious about things, but he was also a person who would rather explore things step by himself if it wasn't necessary. He was a person who wasn't willing to lose his fun by directly learning about things. Luoqiu had always been a good housekeeper since he was a child. He could get the answer by asking his subordinates, so why would he go to the altar? "Tell me more about Miss Zhaoru." Black Soul number 18 nodded. "Master, she has a serious antisocial personality." Boss Luo didn't stop his eyes from listening to the Black Soul envoy. In the alley where Zhaoru was staying, Boss Luo watched her silently sitting in the house, made of paper boxes. Chapter 385. Some people were born carefree, grew up carefree, and grew up carefree, but they were still carefree. Some people came to this world with great difficulty. They worked hard in the first half of their lives and the second half of their lives. It seemed that no matter how hard they tried, they would not get any better. Were there some things that were already destined the moment you came to this world? Were some things unfair? No matter how you resisted, you could not erase the unfairness that had happened and would continue to affect you for the rest of your life. Poor psychological quality. Life was not only about the present, but also about poetry and the future. What **t was this? Even though these words themselves were not wrong, even though those who said these words, those who had suffered enough, were the most powerful and best proof of these words. But after all, they were only a minority. Even if these successful people were often exposed and often appeared in various reports, articles, and interviews, they were still a minority. Yes, the people who were interviewed and the people who said these words were all so-called successful examples, but there were tens of thousands of readers and viewers. Among these thousands of viewers and readers, how many could copy the way of success? Even if they believed that it was a psychological problem, even if they believed that there was poetry and the future in life. She didn't know. Zhaoru didn't know how many people there were, but she knew that she didn't understand poetry and didn't see the future. So, she was one of the young people who couldn't do it. On this planet with more than 7 billion people, she was one of the people who couldn't do it. She knew that she had given up on herself. When she saw those students who had envied the life and environment of others, when she met those who were clearly blessed but didn't know what it was, they would rather degrade themselves just to have a piece of high-end clothing or a so-called limited edition sneaker. That's right, the world was just that unfair. Since it was like this, then please allow me to vent my anger. Anyway, you have abandoned me, right? It seemed that she had a dream from a long time ago. Vaguely, she felt that something was looking at her. She raised her head. All of a sudden, she raised her head from between her hands and knees. The house in the box was a little brighter than the space between her arms and knees, and the alley beyond the house was a little brighter. She found that her eyes couldn't adapt to the light, so her vision blurred for a moment, even though she knew that it wasn't very bright here. But in front of him was only a wall on the other side of the alley, and there was nothing that he could see. Perhaps it was just his imagination? To begin with, he had not been able to sleep well in the past few days. But at this moment, when her vision cleared, a young face peeked in. It was my Xiaojuan's face. He came back from school again. Zhao Ru could even hear Uncle Mai whispering, "Don't disturb me." But my Xiaojun didn't care too much. Grandpa always told him not to disturb the other uncles who lived here. "Sister Xiaoru, today's mission is complete." "Really?" Xiaoru nodded. She turned around and subconsciously reached for a bag. Inside was a squarish and very heavy object. However, her hand seemed to have been electrocuted, and she abruptly withdrew her hand. In the end, she didn't take out the object from the bag. Instead, she took out 2 crispy sharks and gave them to my Xiaojun. My Xiaojun tore off the first piece and ate it before dinner. At this time, Zhao Ru said, "You don't need to go tomorrow." My Xiaojun was disappointed. "Why?" "I don't need it anymore." Zhao Ru said indifferently, "This is the last time." My Xiaojun thought that he wouldn't get such a reward from Sister Xiao Ru in the future. Fortunately, he didn't eat up the 2 sharks every day, but kept one. These days, he had saved 7 sharks. Such a young child's life was like this. It was probably because of his grandpa's influence that he could make such a plan. But my Xiaojun didn't know that the so-called last time referred to more things. He didn't see Sister Xiao Ru again. After that night, when he woke up in the morning, as usual, he wanted to say hello to this big sister before going to school. However, there was nothing left in this paper box house. It was empty. Grandpa said something that my Xiaojun didn't understand. This is a place where people can stay, but also a place where they can't stay. If someone left, it was probably because it was time to leave. On the way to school, my Xiaojun looked up at his grandpa. "Grandpa, is Sister Xiao Ru going to find her family?" Old Mai took out a crumpled cigarette from his pocket and glanced at the streets of the city. "I don't know. Maybe she wants to make a decision. I still don't understand, Grandpa." However, she remembered that her grandpa would sometimes say these strange things. Whenever someone in the alley never came back, Grandpa would always say these strange things. My Xiaojun thought to himself that he would probably never see this big sister who would teach him homework and treat him to food, but would never smile again. 17:55 p.m. So, this is the reason why he dressed as a girl? When the sun was about to set, Lin Feng checked the time and asked Sir Ma in a unit in the opposite building of a female high school student. This female high school student was the one who reported the case to the police and received a threatening letter. As Wang Yuechuan said, the female high school student was indeed safe. That was because she was now in the room of the unit that they had deployed. There was someone guarding outside the door, and a female police officer was accompanying her in the room. As for the female high school student's family, they were not at home, because they had been arranged to have dinner outside. Anyway, Ma Hao didn't know what tricks Wang Yuechuan had used to send Wang Yuechuan's family away. As long as he did that, it was fine. Don't ask so many questions. Pay attention to the surroundings and keep an eye on him. Once he shows up, take action immediately. Ma Hao patted Lin Feng on the back of his head. The young police officer shrugged and picked up the binoculars. He stared at a unit in the opposite building and couldn't help laughing. But, Comrade Wang Yuechuan's dress is really good. Ha 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 ha, Sir Ma, there are still 3 hours before 9 o'clock. Do you want to have a look? Ha 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 ha, what are you laughing at? Ma Hao patted Lin Feng on the head again and said seriously, Am I the kind of guy who likes to see a man dressed as a girl? Humph. Give me the binoculars. Comrade Lin Feng, I find that you are seriously not serious about your work. I don't trust you to monitor. I'll do it myself. Chapter 386. The cold wind has a letter, the autumn moon is boundless, blah blah blah. Don't get me wrong, Wang Yuechuan was not the type to sing this tune. It was just the sound of the TV coming from under his feet. To be exact, it came from the TV of a family below the rooftop where she was standing. Don't get me wrong, Comrade Wang Yuechuan was indeed in a woman's dress. His physique belonged to the thin type. But his body was covered by clothes, and his body fat percentage was very low. Looking from the back, Comrade Wang Yuechuan could be described as having long hair fluttering in the wind. Of course, he was much taller than the female high school student, but it didn't matter because she was now sitting on a small part of the wall of the rooftop. Below Wang Yuechuan was the street. It could be said that the space below his body was truly empty. Where are you, Zhao Ru? But Wang Yuechuan was not afraid of the height and place that only extreme sports players would choose. His eyes were like a falcon, looking at the small figure moving downstairs like an ant. And Wang Yuechuan squinted his eyes. Chao Yu, I know you will come. 8. 2 asterisk 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 m 8:31 p.m. Zhao Ru lowered her head and walked down from a bus. It was still the rush hour in the city, so no one would pay attention to a woman walking with her head down. She would reach her destination after another street. She could even see the signboard on the rooftop of the destination among the many buildings. Zhao Ru looked around more carefully, and then quietly walked into an alley, getting closer to her destination. She was sure that no one had found her. She believed in her own eyes, far more than what she heard from others, even if it was from her relatives. But she didn't know that there were times when she couldn't see, for example, the black soul envoy that ordinary people couldn't see. Black soul number 18 was moving forward at the same speed, less than 1 meter behind the woman and 2 meters above the ground. It was almost time for black soul number 18 to harvest the fruit. Even if humans could pry into their own hearts, they would always overlook their true thoughts. But she could sense human thoughts more clearly than humans, especially those who had fallen into the dreams of the past because of her. But black soul number 18 stopped at this moment. She didn't turn around. Instead, she said indifferently, "Tisk tsk. Haven't you learned enough from last time? Do you still want to throw your life away?" A half-baked magician. She followed Zhao Ru, but someone else also followed her, the man with glasses whom she called a dabbler. "Chao Yu. All you did was break my mirror image magic, and you're already so proud of yourself. That's all there is to you." "Is that so?" Black soul number 18 said indifferently and slowly turned around. But before she turned around, she flicked her finger and a black light flew into Zhao Ru's clothes. Zhao Ru didn't know what was going on. Black soul number 18 completely blocked this movement, and Chao Yu was actually staring at her every move with rapt attention. He was not as relaxed as he made himself out to be. He was only using words to provoke the other party so that the other party would lose his cool due to anger and expose more of his weaknesses. Of course, Chao Yu didn't think that it would be so easy to make the other party reveal a flaw due to anger. However, doing something was better than doing nothing. "It seems that you're well prepared this time. Tsk tisk. Chao Yu smiled indifferently. "I have to be careful." Black soul number 18 said with interest, "Oh? Really? Let me guess. I don't need to verify anything. You came here directly with your real body, right?" Chao Yu still said indifferently, "You're the first one I met who could break my 4-star barrier. And you also defeated my mirror image magic. I don't think the same magic can defeat you, so I have to be careful." Black soul number 18 gave out a gloomy laugh, like the sound of a knife scraping the glass. "But it's not safe for you to come here personally." Chao Yu adjusted his glasses and nodded. "You're right. Strictly speaking, it's not appropriate for me to do it myself. But you ignored one thing. I'd like to hear it. Chow Yu had been clasping his hands behind his back. At this moment, he clasped his hands together behind his back. However, his expression didn't change at all. You've forgotten that this woman is the hotbed I've chosen to nurture her. I know her better than anyone else. I can clearly see her pattern of action. Black Soul number 18 sneered disdainfully. Chow Yu wasn't in a hurry. He slowly finished his words. Since I know her purpose, I know her mode of action. Naturally, I also know what route she will choose to take tonight. For example, here. Black Soul number 18 looked around the alley subconsciously. At the same time, Chow Yu opened his hands at this moment, squatting down quickly and pressing his hands on the ground. At this moment, two cyan circles, one big and one small, appeared rapidly under the feet of Black Soul number 18. On the walls of the alleyway to her left and behind, 6 different dim lights erupted from them. There were 6 lights on the left and right, making a total of 12 lights. They were all rapidly rotating crystals made of black water. They seemed to have been hidden in the walls earlier. 12 black crystals of the same size formed an icosahedron together, and Black Soul number 18 had fallen into this icosahedron space at this moment. You set an ambush. It was a sharp cry with anger. But Chow Yu didn't pay attention to it. He took a deep breath, and the magic power in his body was released crazily. After a while, Chow Yu exhaled and stood up slowly. The tetrahedron in front of him that wrapped around Black Soul number 18 also began to shrink slowly. Finally, it turned into a fist-sized icosahedron and slowly floated into Kai Su's palm. Chow Yu's footsteps seemed to be a little unstable. After shrinking the icosahedron, he directly leaned against the wall, as if he needed a rest. He lowered his head and looked at the black shadow in the icosahedron. When he saw that the other party was unable to break out of the icosahedron, he sneered. I spent 3 days to prepare this spell. How is it compared to the first-rate magician you mentioned? The black shadow in the icosahedron didn't pay attention to him, and just quieted down. Chow Yu said indifferently, Don't worry, we have time to play. Now, I'm going to pick this fruit that's about to ripen. Chow Yu walked out of the alley quickly. 8:37 p.m. 8:50 p.m. Lin Feng took a look through the crack of the door. The female high school student and policewoman were still inside, but they didn't speak. He didn't continue to look, but glanced at his watch. There were only 10 minutes left before 9 o'clock. But at this moment, Sir Ma, who was holding a telescope by the window, suddenly raised his hand. Through the wireless microphone pinned on his collar, he said to all the policemen in the room, his colleagues who were ambushing in different positions on the street, and Wang Yuechuan who was enjoying the cool breeze on the rooftop, all units pay attention, the target mission has appeared. I repeat, the target mission has appeared. Be ready to arrest. Along, who's the person next to you? Unexpectedly, Sir Ma's voice changed. The policeman called Along who was hiding was stunned. He looked out but only saw the back of the man. I don't know, maybe he's a passerby. A passerby? Ma Hao frowned. He followed the man with the telescope, but could only see that the man lowered his head, and couldn't see his face clearly. But this man walked ahead of Zhao Ru. If there was no accident, he would meet Zhao Ru face to face. Ma Hao had a strange premonition, but he didn't know what this premonition meant. Was he just a passerby, or, at this moment, the assistant at another ambush point also sent a message? Sir Ma, the target is about to enter the effective arrest range. There are still 10 meters left. How many seconds would it take to complete a 10-meter section at a normal pace? Chapter 387. Zhao Ru frowned. Because in the pocket of her jacket, she felt something that she had no impression of. She didn't know where it came from. It was a black card. She was very clear about all the things she had, but she didn't know where this black card came from. Was it when she left the alley? Or earlier? Who put it in her pocket? She stopped because of the unknown. But she stopped in less than 10 minutes before 9 o'clock in the evening. The card to realize one's wish could be exchanged for a chance to realize one's wish. And the price was anything. As long as it was worth it, it could be the price. This was the thought that quietly emerged in her mind after she touched the black card. However, she quickly took another step forward. She planted the seeds and watered them constantly. Now it was time to harvest in less than half an hour. How could she let her doubts stop her? She needed to harvest the fruit. There was a huge hole in her heart. She knew that only this kind of fruit could temporarily fill the hole. The fruit of death. The fruit of happiness, but had to fall into despair. It was the fruit of all the regret and pain they felt before they died. Only by being there personally, only by seeing it with his own eyes, only by touching the moment when everything shattered in an instant, could the joy that came from the bottom of his heart fill the hole in his heart. She could even see the figure on the rooftop of the building. It was too high, so she couldn't see the figure clearly, but she knew who was sitting there. Panic, regret, self-blame and despair. She seemed to have heard the crying of the girl on the rooftop. She couldn't control herself. She smiled slightly, waiting for the moment when the fruit was ripe. It was not the first time for her to enjoy that kind of sweetness and mellowness. Because it was not the first time, she knew how delicious it was. Yes or no, I'm very happy. Zhao Ru frowned subconsciously when she heard the words coming from the front. She knew that there was a man walking in front of her. In fact, she had to be more careful at this time. But she was sure that she had never seen this ordinary guy with glasses before. She had a good memory, really good. When she was caught for the first time in the police station, she almost remembered the faces of all the policemen she met along the way. The man was less than a step in front of her. He was on her left and was about to walk past her on her left. Moreover, the man didn't stop. Everything seemed so natural. But the man said the second sentence. It's a pity that the happy things will leave you in the end. You will never get it. Thank you for providing me with such excellent material. Zhao Ru's mind went blank when she heard the last sentence. She turned around subconsciously and watched the man disappear at the corner. She subconsciously reached for her chest, grabbing the black crystal pendant that could calm her down as usual. But she found that she couldn't grab it this time. Gone, gone, gone. And a kind of pain began to spread from her body. Zhao Ru subconsciously touched her abdomen. Warm liquid was flowing from her body. She suddenly saw a bottomless abyss. Sir Ma, the target is strange. She stopped again. Motherf asterisk cur. Action. Action now. Find the man who just passed by and get him back. Ma Howd threw away the binoculars in his hand and pulled out his pistol. He hurriedly rushed downstairs with his men. However, the policemen who were waiting for them on the street had arrived in front of Zhao Ru earlier than them. Stop. Don't move. A total of policemen rushed out from the opposite side of the road and the shop next to it. They raised their guns at the same time and pointed at Zhao Ru. Surrender? But she didn't move, as if she had lost something. A police officer shook his head. The other police officer nodded and walked to Zhao Ru step by step. He took out the handcuff. But when he put his hand on Zhao Ru's shoulder, the woman in front of him suddenly fell to the ground. When the policeman opened her coat, he found that there was a knife in her abdomen and the blood couldn't stop flowing. Damn! That man! How did he do that? After cursing angrily, the police officer rushed forward and chased after him from the corner. Ma Howd finally arrived with the other policeman. He finally caught Zhao Ru. But Ma Howd didn't smile. He didn't feel happy at all. Hold on. The ambulance will be here soon. Hold on. Officer Ma grabbed the hand of this woman who was supposed to be in the prime of her life and said, Hang in there. Tell me, who was the one who killed you? Who did it? However, the woman he was holding only opened her mouth and didn't say anything. She just looked at the sky, at the darkness above the city lights. It was as if everything she could see was black to begin with. She suddenly became cold. The hole in her heart seemed to become bigger and swallowed her. She slowly closed her eyes. This was the most desperate eyes Ma Howd had ever seen in his life. "Sir Ma, we can't wait for the ambulance. Let's drive her to the hospital," a policeman suggested. Ma Howd nodded and ordered people to carry Zhao Ru into the car. After that, Ma Howd hit the guardrail on the sidewalk and said to the wireless radio, "Did you catch up with that man?" "I'm sorry, Sir Ma, I can't find him." F***CK. Ma Howd hit the guardrail again and said, "Where is Wang Yuechuan? Wang Yuechuan? Wang Yuechuan?" "Sir Ma, Wang Yuechuan seems to have left the rooftop. We can't contact him." Sir Ma hit the guardrail for the third time and said angrily, F***CKU. Desperation, desperation, it's good to be desperate. Chow Yu took off his glasses. He was more willing to take off his glasses to look at the situation. He looked at the black crystal pendant in his hand with a fascinated look. At this time, he was leaning on a bus stop sign, and the necklace was lifted up by him, swinging freely from side to side in his line of sight. With this thing, he believed that his magic power could be further improved. He could also start to practice some of the spells in the ancient book that he hadn't used yet, right? "Do you like desperation?" "Of course." The crystal pendant was still swinging in front of Chow Yu's eyes. He was so addicted to it that he didn't even think about the answer. But who would answer for him? Chow Yu furrowed his brows, but soon relaxed. He chuckled and took out the icosahedron, which was the size of a fist. "So you still have the strength to speak? Not bad, I think I can refine you into a very good tool." "You haven't answered me. Do you like desperation? Is it important?" Chow Yu shook his head and suddenly said, "But I want to change my mind. It's the first time for me to meet such a special wandering soul like you. I think I need to study you carefully. Answer me, do you like desperation?" Chow Yu didn't answer. He sneered and put the icosahedron on his clothes. But when it was about to be put away, Chow Yu felt something wrong. At this moment, a very faint sensation was spreading from the center of his palm. This icosahedron was splitting apart. Chow Yu's face changed slightly. He took it out again, but at this moment, it had been completely shattered and turned into countless dust. That black shadow was in front of him, as if she had never been trapped. You used illusion on me?" Chow Yu narrowed his eyes. He was flustered but didn't panic. He didn't arrange anything here. He made a mistake. He underestimated the power of this wandering soul again. He planned to confront her directly. He needed to find a chance to escape. "Illusion?" Black Soul number 18 said contemptuously. "Do you think you're qualified enough for me to use illusion on you? But your thing can't trap me at all. I just stay inside and let you do something for me." "What did you say?" Chow Yu frowned. Black Soul number 18 said indifferently, "Stupid guy. Do you know? The real Black Soul Envoy is good at taking advantage of the favorable conditions. Since you originally intended to push this woman into the abyss of despair, your goal is barely the same as mine. Why shouldn't I do it?" Jia. Chow Yu didn't know what a Black Soul Envoy was, but he instinctively felt the black shadow in front of him. He saw the ugly witch-like face in the black robe and hat. His body suddenly couldn't move. The crystals that had just slipped out of his sleeves fell to the ground and bounced. This was the first time, ever since he had obtained the ancient book, this was the first time he felt that his strength was so insignificant. "You? Who are you?" "You don't deserve to know." Black Soul number 18 came closer and stretched out her hand. It was a withered hand with fingers that looked like white bones. Her fingers scratched Chow Yu's face, and Black Soul number 18 said with a smile, "But there's one thing I can tell you. That is, you're not the one who can pluck it. In this world, only one person has the qualification to pluck the beauty of everything in this world. My new master." Who the hell are you? Do you like desperation? The black shadow suddenly shrouded Xiaoyu. In the emergency room of the hospital. Doctor, the patient's temperature is rising rapidly. Under the strong light, the doctor and the nurse were rushing to save the woman who had been stabbed in the abdomen. But at this moment, the nurse who was changing the blood suddenly stopped. It was not because she encountered something that made her stop, but because she didn't know that she had stopped. The doctor's movements also stopped, but his hands were still raised. The nurse who was looking at the data on the instrument also stopped. Everything in this place had stopped. Only those instruments were still working normally. Are you looking for me? Guessed. On the operating table, Zhao Ru suddenly heard a voice. She slowly opened her eyes. She saw the dazzling spotlight on the operating table, and a vague figure. She felt that someone gently held her palm. This gave her a magical power, and her vision became clear. But she also knew that her life was coming to an end. Because before she woke up this time, she had already seen her entire life. Chapter 388. It was as if the concepts of time and space were completely separated here, in this small emergency room. The motionless person and the flowing time. Luoqiu let go of Zhao Ru's hand, because she had enough time to talk with him. Miraculously, Zhao Ru was not too surprised by what happened in front of her. She opened her mouth slightly and quickly glanced at her surroundings. She looked at the doctors and nurses who were still standing in front of her and the wounds on her body. The clothes on this hideous wound had already been cut open. The wound on her abdomen was so deep, but she unexpectedly didn't feel any pain. The visual impact and the pain that should have been felt by the nerve endings of the body seemed to be perfectly separated at this moment. It's the black card, Zhao Ru said after a long silence. Luoqiu waved his hand to let the doctor with the scalpel move sideways. Then he sat on the edge of the bed. One of my employees gave it to you. As for this employee now. Speaking of this, Luoqiu suddenly paused and shook his head, probably having a good time. Had a good time? Luoqiu said indifferently, it's just his personal interest. It has nothing to do with you. Zhao Ru didn't understand these, she just nodded subconsciously. But the masked man sitting in front of her gave her a feeling of calmness. How inconceivable! All these years, she had never had a moment of such peace and quiet like this. Even the pendant couldn't give her this kind of tranquility. It only gave her calmness. And madness. Thinking of the crystal, Zhao Ru found that she didn't wear it. But it was different this time. She didn't feel uneasy without it. But she still did the habitual action of playing with the pendant in front of her chest. She suddenly realized many things and raised her head. This crystal. Did you? Luoqiu shook his head slightly. Maybe you were chosen, or maybe you just got it by chance. That thing you're carrying has a strange attraction to people with strong desires. Zhao Ru smiled bitterly. But no matter whether it was intentional or not, I still got it. Can I ask you a question? Go ahead. Zhao Ru took a deep breath. Why are there unfortunate people? What is the source of the unfairness in the world? Can I have my own opinion? Zhao Ru nodded subconsciously. Luoqiu thought for a while and said, in fact, I don't know what the source is. Even if I can get the answer from somewhere else, it's not my own answer. Even if I get the answer from someone who is like the truth, it's not my own answer. So, there is no answer? Zhao Ru was stunned. She didn't understand. It's not that complicated. Luoqiu still shook his head. Well, why are there unfortunate people in the world? Because there are lucky people in the world. The more unfortunate people there are, the more fortunate people there are. Generally speaking, it's balanced. For example, we keep getting resources from nature. Countless resources are consumed over and over again. I'm afraid the resources will be completely used up one day. However, for this planet, its quality doesn't change. As far as we know, the things that have been consumed just continue to exist here in another form. You mean, because of the existence of misfortune, we can create luck? Who knows? Luoqiu shook his head. Maybe it's just a wrong proposition. Zhao Ru became silent. She did not say anything, but time continued to pass. The second hand of the clock in the resuscitation room continued to move as if there was no end in sight. It's a bit strange. I can look at everything I've done calmly. Zhao Ru finally opened her mouth and looked at the club boss sitting beside her. There is a saying that death can also bring peace to people. Because he had already died once. After the merry-go-round, she had already experienced everything in her life. Now she was just a bystander. Zhao Ru's eyes suddenly became softer. She wanted to be as gentle as her eyes at this moment, at the very beginning. Zhao Ru shook her head. But even if I die, the things I did wrong will not disappear. Just like what you said, it will only continue to exist in another form. My sins have turned into sorrow, and pain exists in the hearts of the victims forever and ever. Luoqiu didn't continue to speak. He just stayed with her and watched the second hand of the clock turn silently. I don't want to stay here anymore. Can you send me somewhere? Zhao Ru suddenly said. Where do you want to go? It seemed that no one had come here since she left. It was a simple single room with a kitchen, living room, bathroom and even bedroom. But it was dusty. This was the place where she had lived for a long time, this small rented single room. She got down from the bed in the emergency room and walked barefoot into her home. I like the design here. Boss Luo looked at it and said with a smile. Just put some thought into it. Zhao Ru smiled. She suddenly walked to the only window and opened it. There was no beautiful scenery here. The old-fashioned low-rise buildings were completely blocked by the high-rise buildings due to the development of the city. For her, the only scenery here was probably the small potted plants hanging in front of the window. But they had dried up because they hadn't been watered for a long time. Only a small plate of gemstone flowers was left. It seemed that nothing had changed since she left. She looked at it silently for a long time. This place is more suitable for me. She turned around and looked at the man who brought her here. This place is small and simple. There is only 1 or 2 hours of sunshine in a day. But, she gave a pale smile, but this place is more suitable for me. Luoqiu said, it's suitable for the former you. Zhao Ru shook her head, it's the same for me now. Boss Luo reminded her, it's almost time. After the protection time, you will return to your original state. Zhao Ru said, I have nothing but this soul with a hole. What can I buy? Boss Luo said, a relatively short life or some small wishes, and then some common things like wealth and wisdom. Of course, some interesting props can also be bought. Do you want to see the list of small items that are suitable for your current purchasing power? Chapter 389. All of a sudden, an extremely terrified voice rang out. It was a man's voice. It was a man with a pair of glasses who was leaning against the bus stop sign. It was as if he had seen the most terrifying thing in the world. He pressed his hands hard on his head and let out a roaring sound. Ah! Ah! Don't come here! Don't come here! The man squatted on the ground in horror. His face was pale and his body was trembling. Sir? Are you okay, sir? A kind passerby came over and patted the man's shoulder tentatively. Moreover, this place began to attract the attention of passers-by. After all, such a sudden scream was very scary. Sir! Don't come here! Go away! Unexpectedly, the squatting man slapped the passerby's arm away. As if he had seen something even more terrible, he rolled and crawled out of the crowd. The man seemed to have lost his direction and ran amok in the city, bumping into one passerby after another. She didn't know what he saw, but she could roughly guess from his twisted expression. He seemed to be very scared. What happened here? People were still standing and curiously watching the strange man disappear. But the next moment, another strange-looking guy came from behind and grabbed one of the passers-by. He was wearing women's clothes. Although he had long hair, his voice was obviously very magnetic. It was a man's voice. A pervert in women's clothing? Say it. What happened? Just now there was a strange guy here. He seemed to be in a lot of pain. Then, he ran over there. Did that guy wear glasses and have a mole at the corner of his eye? I didn't notice the mole, but he wore glasses. Hey, big brother, wait, do you want to take a picture? I don't mind if you wear women's clothes. But the weirdo in women's clothing had quickly run out of the crowd. The crowd began to disperse slowly. What happened here just now? But the kind passerby was actually put on his shoulder. Well, it was a middle-aged man with a big belly and a mustache. TSK, I thought there were women's clothes. What are you talking about? Police. Let me ask you something. Did you see a man wearing women's clothes? In the dark alley, the man. Chow Yu was hiding in a corner. His body was trembling even more. In front of his eyes, it was as if the entire world was filled with countless black shadows. Even if, in reality, there was only one black shadow in front of him. The black shadow finally turned into a human figure, wearing a black robe. Black Soul number 18 whispered in Chow Yu's ear with a pleasant laugh. There are so many rich people in this world. It doesn't matter if you're there or not. I like to torture magicians the most. Especially watching you magicians in the abyss of despair, becoming crazier and more desperate. Kakik. Go away. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Chow Yu covered his ears with all his might, but that ear-piercing and terrifying laughter still rang clearly in his mind. In order to get rid of the torture brought about by this kind of laughter, Chow Yu suddenly clenched his teeth and crazily jabbed his fingers into his own ears, destroying his own eardrums. He instinctively, of God of you? Of black of you? Of you think you can't hear it? No. You will hear it more clearly. You will not only hear it, but also see more. But he could still hear the laughter clearly. Black Soul number 18's ugly face suddenly showed a twisted smile. Magician, is it painful? Is it despair? It's not even 1/10,000th of what I suffered before. I swear, I will kill all the magicians I meet. You could have lived for a while. If you ran away during the working period, I might not be able to catch up with you temporarily due to the task. But you sent yourself to me, so don't blame me, haha. Stop laughing. He was on the verge of mental collapse. The only thing he could think of was to get rid of this nightmare. He was even willing to pay everything for it. Oh, what a strong desire to make a deal, haha. Black Soul number 18 shook her head. What a pity, I have countless achievements, but I have never taken a vacation. I used all my achievements to strengthen my ability. Isolation. As long as I want, as long as you are weaker than me, you are not qualified to enter the club, haha. You can only die in despair. Don't worry, I will love you well. Madman. You are a madman. I will show you something more desperate. Magician, are you ready? Haha. I won't let you succeed. Ah. Chow Yu sneered. Although he was desperate, he could still think. He knew that he couldn't escape from the hands of this demon-like old witch, and he didn't want to continue to bear the horrible despair. At the same time, he didn't want to satisfy her. He chose to commit suicide. A knife accurately pierced into his heart. As blood flowed out, Chow Yu sneered. I won't let you do as you wish, Black Soul number 18 sneered. Stupid magician, do you think you are really dead when your body is dead? Look at what this is. Black Soul number 18 gently opened her black robe. There was no body in the robe. Instead, there were countless distorted and despairing faces. Chow Yu leaned weakly against the wall and slowly slid down. The place where his heart had been stabbed continued to bleed. His life was also rapidly fading away. However, he knew what these faces that appeared in this black shadow's body represented. Souls. Souls. This terrifying and crazy old witch had actually stored all the souls in her body, tormenting them every single day and night. They are all magicians. Chow Yu felt cold and his eyelids were heavy. Correct, the only reward is Black Soul number 18's eyes gave out a strange light. You will become one of them, haha. Black Soul number 18 put away her black robe and slowly walked to Chow Yu's side. She stretched out her hand and seemed to want to press his forehead. Don't move. Raise your weapon. Wang Yuechuan raised his gun and appeared less than 2 meters behind Black Soul number 18. Although there was not enough light here, he could see clearly the appearance of Chow Yu, who was lying on the ground, and the weird guy in a black robe in front of him. Even though he couldn't see the front of this black-robed fellow, it wasn't difficult for him to determine the situation in front of him. This black-robed fellow had probably just tortured this Chow Yu, the fellow he had been chasing for over a year, until he didn't even look human. Another reckless guy. Black Soul number 18 didn't look back. Behind her was just an ordinary human who was no threat to her. She didn't want to let people disturb her fun. I said, don't move. Lie on the wall, do you hear me? Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, you can't escape. Arrest is not a good choice. Do you think you can deal with me with that thing in your hand? Stupid human. Black Soul number 18 tilted her head slightly and waved her arm slowly. A purple light was forming in the palm hidden in the black robe. However, another set of footsteps soon came from the alley. It was a bit heavy, and it was accompanied by the sound of rapid breathing. Fuck, I finally found you. What happened here? It was none other than Officer Ma, who had been looking for them all the way here, panting as he ran in. When he saw the situation, he immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at the black-robed man in front of him. F***ck me, what are you doing? Don't move. Don't move. I'm Ma Howd from the police station in this city. Now I want to arrest you. Okay, I won't move. Please don't be agitated. Sir Ma didn't know what happened here, but he didn't expect that the guy in a black robe would be so obedient. Moreover, the figure sounded like an old woman. Not only Ma Howd, but also Wang Yuechuan was very surprised. The reaction of this weird guy in a black robe was like two different people. The guy really raised his hand as if he didn't resist. Black Soul number 18 had to compromise. She was the only Black Soul envoy who was assigned to protect a deputy editor. She followed him every day and night, so how could she not know the identity of Sir Ma? She could ignore Wang Yuechuan, but she couldn't touch Ma Howd casually. Black Soul number 18 glanced at Chow Yu indifferently. This guy couldn't be saved. Now it seemed that although she couldn't continue to extract his soul and torture him, forget it, she had already tortured him quite a bit. He wasn't an orthodox magician, he was just an unorthodox magician. She would just treat it as a fast food meal. Now you lie on the wall. Ma Howd continued to roar at this moment. I'll do as you say. Black Soul number 18 answered indifferently, and really did lie on the wall obediently. But at this moment she suddenly flung her black robe. The robe flashed and something fell on the ground. With a loud bang, a large amount of smoke was emitted. Shit, it's a smoke bomb. Comrade Wang, don't shoot, in case of accidental injury. Comrade Wang, Comrade Wang. Don't shout, I'm here. Ma Howd waved his arms hard, and vaguely saw Wang Yuechuan squatting on the ground. When the smoke dispersed and the situation could be seen clearly, Sir Ma squatted on the ground and built a can from the ground. It was just a very ordinary Coke can. Shit, is this a smoke bomb? What kind of model is this? The latest technology? Sir Ma clearly remembered that this was what the old woman in a black robe threw on the ground. Ma Howd shook the empty can in his hand hard. Was it really just a can? Officer Ma, call an ambulance right now. Wang Yuechuan said quickly. Ma Howd looked at the man with a knife in his chest, supported by Wang Yuechuan, and nodded hurriedly. Chow Yu was dying, but there was a weird smile on his face, as if he was relieved. Chow Yu. You're Chow Yu, right? Answer me. Wang Yuechuan asked in a low voice. He clearly saw that the man with glasses in front of him was bleeding from both ears. It seemed that his eardrums were broken, but he didn't care too much. 1 year ago. Was it you? Tell me, what method did you use to lure those people to commit the crime? What's your purpose? Tell me. Chow Yu opened his eyelids a little. He couldn't hear Wang Yuechuan's words, but he could guess what Wang Yuechuan wanted to say. You still found me. Chow Yu's voice became even softer. Answer, 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 you will become the next me, you will fall, darkness will devour you. While saying this, Chow Yu slightly lowered his eyes and looked at his own body. Wang Yuechuan subconsciously touched the place where Chow Yu was looking at, and instinctively reached out his hand to fumble in Chow Yu's clothes. He found a book. What do you mean? What's this? Tell me. Wang Yuechuan quivered. The moment he held the book, his heart suddenly jumped. Tell me. He shook Chow Yu's shoulder hard, but he didn't hear Chow Yu's voice anymore. He's dead. At this time, Ma Haud squatted down, reaching out to feel Chow Yu's breath, and then felt Chow Yu's pulse, shaking his head helplessly. He's completely dead. Sir Ma also quivered at this time. He always felt that although this guy was dead, the smile on his face was so evil, as if he had done something bad before his death. The guardrail outside the alley was pulled up, and Chow Yu's body was still lying on the ground, waiting for the police to come to collect evidence. Sir Ma smoked a cigarette, and now walked to Wang Yuechuan's side. This guy had been chasing for more than a year, but he didn't expect that the result would be like this, so he probably felt very bad in his heart. Wang Yuechuan leaned against the wall of the alley like this. This is Chow Yu, his death is not clear. Ma Haud used this as a topic, saying, who is that old woman? Why did she kill Chow Yu? Do you have any clue? Is there something that you haven't told me before? But Sir Ma didn't doubt it, because he didn't know such a strange old woman apart from Chow Yu. By the way, wouldn't it be eye-catching to run around in a black robe? He asked the people nearby, but they all said that they had no impression of it. I don't know who that person is. Wang Yuechuan shook his head. Maybe it's Chow Yu's enemy, and Chow Yu was obviously tortured. But I'm not sure. It's a pity that he's dead, or I'll definitely pry open his mouth and ask him clearly. Oh. Ma Haud shrugged and suddenly curiously asked, What's this? The thing in Wang Yuechuan's hand seemed to be taken from Chow Yu's body, a thick-skinned book? I don't know. Wang Yuechuan shook his head, opening the book casually. Do you know this language? I know the 26 letters. Ma Haud took the book and looked at it. He said seriously, These are like earthworms. Give me some time, I know several university professors. I'd better do it myself. Wang Yuechuan took the book back indifferently and said indifferently. Sir Ma shrugged. Originally, Wang Yuechuan was secretly investigating Chow Yu, and Sir Ma was only in charge of Zhao Ru's case. Now that Zhao Ru was seriously injured and lying in the hospital, his work was considered finished. Finally, he could go home and drink his wife's soup. When Sir Ma was thinking about this, his phone rang. Chapter 390. I need an explanation. In the hospital, Officer Ma rushed over and questioned the police officer who had sent the patient here but let her go. Wang Yuechuan and Lin Feng also came with him. Sir Ma, we don't know either. The police officer was at a loss. We saw the patient being sent to the emergency room with our own eyes. But not long after, the doctor came out and said the patient was gone. Ma Haud was stunned. He clapped his hands in the air. The patient in the emergency room disappeared? The police officer was also stunned. He also clapped his hands. The patient in the emergency room disappeared. Sir Ma waved his hands again. She flew away? The police officer also clapped his hands and nodded. She flew away. I'll fly your mother's balls. Why didn't you tell me that the woman was a ghost who could go through walls? Unexpectedly, the police officer panicked and said, Sir Ma, the emergency room is sealed. There are so many doctors and nurses here. The patient disappeared with a beep. The doctors and nurses couldn't see her at all. Could it be that there really was a ghost? Ma Haud's face suddenly darkened. I don't know if there was a ghost, but I know that you won't be sleeping tonight. Why? To find her. Idiot. Go find her. Ma Howd was furious and said, inform everyone on duty, even the traffic police and the auxiliary police. Go and find him. Yes, yes, yes. Seeing the police officer running out in a panic, Ma Howd said, wait, find the doctors and nurses in the emergency room. Separate them one by one and ask them for me. Ask them to death. There were new things every day, and the sun rose as usual. The people in the city began to welcome a new day as usual. Xiaojun, have you packed your things? Uncle Mai called my Xiaojun, who was brushing his teeth. My Xiaojun was squatting in front of the canal in the alley, holding a cup of water. In fact, he was brushing his teeth. He mumbled, I'm done. Uncle Mai nodded and massaged his waist. He didn't sleep well last night. In the middle of the night, he seemed to hear the sound of sirens. It should be the traffic police passing by on motorcycles. In the middle of the night, there were actually traffic police patrolling nearby. Since when did the traffic police work so hard at that time? Uncle Mai shook his head. As usual, he held his grandson's hand and walked out of the alley. Along the way, they greeted some of the people who had woken up early. Excuse me, are you Uncle Mai? Suddenly, someone called out to him. Uncle Mai turned around and saw a young man dressed in ordinary clothes, but Uncle Mai had an indescribable feeling, as if the world had become quieter with him standing there. Who are you? Uncle Mai frowned. He couldn't find anything related to this young man in his memory. The young man walked over and looked down at my Xiaojun. He squatted down and smiled. You are my Xiaojun. My Xiaojun nodded. Big brother, who are you? Are you looking for my grandpa to collect garbage? The young man continued to smile. Maybe in the future, but not today. I'm here to give you two things. Give Xiaojun something? Uncle Mai was stunned and frowned. Who are you? The young man stood up and looked at Uncle Mai. Well, Uncle Mai, I'm entrusted by a fund company to give something to your grandson. Fund company? Uncle Mai was even more confused. Yes, a newly established fund company. The young man handed a business card to Uncle Mai and said, its purpose is to help children who can't afford to study to continue their studies. Fortunately, my Xiaojun was one of the first batch of children supported by the fund company. You? Are you kidding? Uncle Mai frowned in confusion. Uncle Mai looked at the card. He didn't know whether it was real or not. He didn't believe that such a big pie would fall from the sky. He even began to doubt whether this guy was a swindler. But thinking about it, he was just an old man who didn't even have a place to live. How could he be swindled? No, the company has been legally registered. Because it's a fund company, it will grow gradually. The young man said indifferently, if you don't believe me, please come to this address in half a month. The decoration should be finished by then. You just need to bring my Xiaojun's birth certificate and school materials to the registration office, then you can enjoy the help of the fund company. Really? Really? Uncle Mai opened his mouth and couldn't believe it. Because this kid is the lucky one. The young man said softly, but if you want to enjoy the support of the fund company, you need to make a small request. I don't have money. No, no, no. The young man chuckled. You just need to promise that you won't use the money for the kid's study for any reason. You must ensure that he finishes his studies. Of course, you need to sign a contract. If the kid can't continue his studies due to natural causes, the fund company will investigate the responsibility of the guardian. No problem. Uncle Mai nodded heavily. Absolutely no problem. The young man continued. The money for each term won't be much, but it will be enough for the kid's study. Uncle Mai nodded and said, it's good enough to pay the tuition fee. After all, besides Xiaojun, you have to pay the tuition fee for so many kids who can't afford to go to school. You're so nice. I'm just here to tell you this. The young man shook his head. The fund's employees are other people. Well, they're still recruiting. But it's not a problem. Uncle Mai didn't understand this. He just touched my Xiaojuan's head gently. He was not young anymore, and he was afraid of what would happen to this kid if he fell down one day. This is another thing for you. The young man crouched down and gave a bag to my Xiaojun. I think you'll need it. Xiaojun, don't take other people's things. Uncle Mai stared at him. My Xiaojun didn't want to give it back, but he still gave it back without checking what was inside. Unexpectedly, the young man shook his head and said softly, "The person who asked me to give it to you also asked me to tell you something." The young man whispered to my Xiaojun, "Don't eat too much crispy shark. Be careful of tooth decay. And one day you'll find your parents." My Xiaojun raised his head. The young man had turned around and left. He was 2 steps away from the corner, but disappeared in 2 seconds. When my Xiaojun casually took a few steps forward and arrived at this place, he could no longer see the person. Alas! Why did he run so fast? Uncle Mai scratched his head and murmured, "What he said just now, was it for fun?" The old man was still skeptical about the fund. How could there be such a good thing in the world? "Xiaojun, what did he give you?" At this time, my Xiaojun opened the bag and took out something. It was a dictionary, Xinhua dictionary. As the young man said, Uncle Mai didn't see him again after that. But when he was collecting garbage, he accidentally passed by the registration center and saw the name of a new fund on the screen. So he decided to go to the address at the appointed time. He took a look at the new sign that said where the registered fund company was located. He looked at the name of the fund on the business card given to him by the young man. This Gem Flower Fund. Dear guest, please look at this. Boss Luo put the documents in front of Zhao Ru. The contracts were very detailed and clear. The wealth was turned into a fund and entrusted to credit companies and regulatory agencies. It would develop year by year. This wealth would be passed down in the most effective form from generation to generation. Gem Flower Fund. Why use this name? Luocha looked at the small pot on the windowsill and said softly, "Dear guest, you didn't specify a name, so I gave it a name. Don't you like it?" "No, no need." Zhao Ru shook her head slightly. It's okay. She suddenly coughed twice. The sharp pain from her abdomen almost engulfed all her nerve endings. But there was a smile on her face. She walked to the small table in the small cubicle and sat on the cushion on the floor. This was a simple dressing table. But just like the other decorations in the room, it was exquisite because of the owner's special intention. Zhao Ru began to comb her hair. This was the last time she combed her hair. She adjusted her collar, as usual, neatly. Then she spat on her lips and applied a light pink lipstick. Her face became paler, but she didn't apply any powder this time. She sat upright and looked at the mirror in front of her silently. The boss of the club appeared in the mirror. He appeared beside Zhao Ru. "What do you see?" She didn't see herself in the mirror. "Can't you see?" She said softly, "You see, a lot of gem flowers that won't wither." So she closed her eyes slowly. Then she fell into the boss' arms. The light pink lips were decorated with a slight curve, and the color seemed to be brighter with a touch of sunshine. She said, "This place is small and simple, and there is only 1 or 2 hours of sunshine in a day." That was the time. Chapter 391. What? She was found in the rented house? In a cafe not far from the police station, Sub-Editor Ren, who was writing down Officer Ma's words in her notebook, raised her head and asked in astonishment. Sir Ma took a sip of coffee and said, "Yes, it was found by the owner. He said he was going to clean up the house and rent it out. But when he opened the door, he saw Zhao Ru's body. He was frightened." Ren Xiling bit the tip of the pen and thought for a while. "You said that after she mysteriously disappeared from the hospital's emergency room, she returned to her rented house? How could a seriously injured person run so far away? By taxi? Wouldn't the driver be suspicious? By walking? Could she walk so far?" Ma Hao shrugged. "I'm afraid it's a mystery." Ren Xiling nodded and suddenly asked, "What did she look like when she died?" Did she leave anything? A suicide note? Ma Hao shook his head. Nothing. I entered the house once and it was clean. When I went there again, it was still clean. She lay on the bed quietly with a smile on her face. Except for that, I couldn't find any trace of her in the rented house. I see. Ma Hao suddenly asked, Madam, what are you going to write this time? What do you mean? The news? She hid a body in a rented house. She was a fugitive. All the headlines are talking about this. Ren Xiling shook her head. I don't want to write. Ma Hao was stunned. Ren Xiling rolled her eyes. If it's not something that she personally narrated, any speculation and discussion is a kind of slander. She's already dead. Why do you want to spend money on her? I still have a bit of conscience, okay? Ma Hao shrugged. Well, that's it. I'm going back to my office. It's not like before. I have to sneak out. There's a dead fish eye in my office. You mean Wang Yuechuan? Ren Xiling nodded. Why is such a big shot in the provincial bureau still here? You said he's a big shot, how do I know? Sir Ma finally had a chance to roll his eyes. Well, I'm leaving. I'll eat at your house next time. Oh, okay. Ren Xiling didn't care. She lowered her head and packed her things, preparing to leave. But she saw that Ma Hao seemed to be in a hurry. Suddenly she thought, **T. He didn't give me the informant fee last time. No wonder he left so fast. So stingy. In a small meeting room in the office of an office, Wang was having a video call with a man. This was an old classmate of his, who was currently studying for a doctorate in an Australian university. Do you have a result? Wang Yuechuan asked directly. Yes, a little. The man on the other end of the video nodded. According to the fragment you scanned for me, this should be an ancient Egyptian language. I tried to find someone to translate some of it. This is the content, take a look. The man sent a picture of the translated text. Wang Yuechuan frowned and read, The death of the body opens the door to eternal life for the soul. What does this mean? The man shrugged and said, It's probably something like a religion or a spell. I'm not sure. By the way, what is this? I've known you for so long, but I've never seen you care so much. Wang Yuechuan shook his head and said, It's just something left by a prisoner. I want to figure out its meaning. The man smiled and said, You're still the same. If it's related to the case, you'll definitely fight to the death. Well, my profession is not very relevant to interpretation, but I know a very good professor. His interpretation of ancient Egypt's civilization and history is quite unique. Contact information. Don't rush, I haven't finished yet. The man shook his head and said helplessly, The professor should be doing an academic exchange in Japan now. He hasn't come back yet. If necessary, I'll go directly. Wang Yuechuan said without hesitation. The man at a university in Australia was taken aback. Then, he smiled. You're really something. I'll send you the contact information later. Just tell him that I introduced him to you. Maybe he'll be interested in your stuff. And you don't have to meet him. Communication is so convenient now. In short, Wang Yuechuan soon got the contact information and tried to contact the professor in Japan. Xiangzi was a man who kept his promise. As he had said, if Fatty Zhang hadn't helped him in those days, he might still be doing things like stealing chickens, dogs, manhole covers, and cables. Therefore, he would try his best to do what Fatty Zhang asked him to do, as long as he could do it. Zhou Xiaoquan's younger brother, Zhou Xiaoping, had been found according to the address Fatty Zhang gave him. That, Mister, have I seen you before? But Xiangzi's appearance was too swift and fierce. He had a tiger tattoo on his arm, which made Zhou Xiaoping, an honest office worker, feel scared from the bottom of his heart. Don't be afraid, Mr. Zhou, we're serious people. At this moment, Xiangzi took off his sunglasses and said with a smile, Hello, are you Mr. Zhou Xiaoping? You can call me Xiangzi. Oh no. Brother Xiangzi, what can I do for you? Take me to a person. Xiangzi directly explained, A woman named Tao Shiman. Zhou Xiaopeng gave a start. Wasn't this the woman his brother asked him to inquire about? Zhou Xiaopeng couldn't figure out the purpose of this brother Qiangzi. He glanced behind this brother Qiangzi quietly. This burly man arrived in a van, and as for the van, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4 men in vests, either with tattoos or bald heads, with kind smiles on their faces. Serious my ass, that? Brother Qiangzi, what do you want to do with her? Zhou Xiaopeng swallowed his saliva. Oh, nothing, my boss wants to have sex with her. Qiangzi said casually, then he felt something was wrong. No, my boss wants to see her. Oh wait, do you want to have sex with her or see her? Oh no, I almost forgot. I don't care. Anyway, just bring me to him. With that, Qiangzi grabbed Zhou Xiaopeng's arm and pulled him directly into the van. Zhou Xiaopeng subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva the moment he entered the carriage and smelled the surging masculine scent in the air. Oh, brother Qiangzi, this guy's skin is very white. So, where are you serious? Be serious. What are you laughing at? In the cabin, Taiyinzi stood proudly with his hands behind his back. In front of him, Fatty Zhang, Lai San, Fatty Zhang's other 2 brothers, and Zhou Xiaokuan were lined up in a row. Taiyinzi coughed twice and said seriously, since you all want to learn, this old man will casually teach you a few things. But remember, this sect is not allowed to casually accept disciples, and you all do not have this qualification. After you go out, you are not allowed to tell others that I am your master, do you understand? Understood. Everyone said in unison. Fatty Zhang nodded even more fiercely. It didn't matter if they recognized a master or not, as long as they could learn a few things. Taiyinzi nodded and said, since you all have served this old man well these past few days, I will give you some pointers. Listen well, what I am going to teach you is something that I have recently mastered. In the process of learning, you must concentrate and do not be distracted. You must achieve unity of mind and body, without distraction. Understood. Everyone still said in unison. Well, give me the item. Taiyinzi cleared his throat at this time. Zhou Xiaokuan saw this and brought a plate over. There was a white cloth on the plate. What was inside? This made Fatty Zhang and Lai San stretch their neck. At this time, Taiyinzi waved his hand and let Zhou Xiaokuan return to his original position. Then, he slowly lifted the white cloth on the plate. Everyone suddenly raised their voices and saw that the plate was finally lifted, and the item inside was officially revealed. Fatty Zhang was taken aback at once. He said subconsciously, this pen? Apple? Pineapple? Yes. Chapter 392. Lunch? It's late. Let me see what I can eat nearby. Well, I'll find something to eat if I'm hungry. That's all. Don't you have an appointment today? I know. Tao Shiman hung up the phone and continued her pace. She walked in this city. As a photography enthusiast, it was rare for her to have such a holiday. How could she not fiddle with her DSLR? Time couldn't keep time, but photos could. Besides, she felt that she was in a bad mood recently. She was inexplicably irritable. She knew the reason clearly. Hobbies are activities that can make you forget some things. The camera turned to buildings and passers-by. Sitting on an ordinary bus, she compared the city in her memory with the city she was in now. Things remained the same, but people had changed. This was probably the best way to describe her current mood. When the tour bus shouted the name of a stop, Tao Shiman got off the bus. But when she stopped at this place and looked at the name on the road sign, she hesitated unexpectedly. Jihua Road. Did she come back to this place? Tao Shiman shook her head. She lived here. Once. Only in this place could she be considered to be revisiting her old haunts, right? Tao Shiman didn't know why she started her pace again. But on this old road, the number of times she mentioned the DSLR could be counted on one hand. Although it was the place in her memory, it was completely different now. A large number of new buildings had appeared. However, there were very few places that could make her recall her memories. Tao Shiman stopped in front of a noodle restaurant. Dad, I want to eat shaved noodles with lots of toppings. Shaved noodles are shaved noodles, toppings are toppings. How can you eat like this? I don't care, I want it. Okay. Okay. She laughed heartily. Tao Shiman remembered the conversation that happened here a long time ago. She seemed to see the scene of a little girl hurriedly pulling her father into the restaurant. Sometimes she would think of a scene that she shouldn't think of. Tao Shiman suddenly felt that it was true that she was reminded of the past. But even so, she didn't want to go in. At least at this moment, her feet seemed to be pulled by something. This made it difficult for her to take a step forward. Maybe a photo would be better, she thought, silently grasping the lens of the camera. Don't you want to go in? Such a voice suddenly appeared behind her. Tao Shiman turned around, only to see a young man in casual clothes. He was younger than her, like a college student, about 20 years old. The door of this noodle restaurant was a little small. Tao Shiman didn't expect that this old noodle restaurant could survive until now. In fact, she wanted to say that she blocked his way in. I'm sorry. Tao Shiman apologized and stepped aside. The young man nodded, smiled, and walked into the noodle house. When the young man walked in, Tao Shiman stepped forward as if something was pulling her. She also entered the noodle house and heard the conversation between the young man and the boss. Tao Shiman remembered the appearance of the boss, but his hair was white. Little brother, you're here again. Is it the usual? Yes, sorry to trouble you, boss. Okay. Have a seat first. It'll be ready soon. The white-haired boss replied in a loud voice. Then, he shouted towards the kitchen, a bowl of topping noodles and a bowl of knife-shaved noodles. The toppings, and shaved noodles are all packed. Then the young man found a stool and sat down. Tao Shiman looked at this scene with interest. She rarely saw such a quiet young man. When he was waiting for time, he didn't play with his phone like the others. Instead, he took out a small book, opened it, and began to read. There was also a bookmark on the book. This was a habit that only a regular reader would have. Why did you put the topping on the shaved noodles? Won't the topping noodles taste bad? She sat down in front of the young man. This was a public cafeteria. But the business of this old noodle restaurant was not so good. It should be lunchtime now, but there were only 3 tables. The one that the young man was sitting on was already one of them. Is there a problem? The young man raised his head slightly and didn't seem to mind the abrupt question. Tao Shiman shook her head. No problem. I'm just curious because it's rare to see someone eat like that. Oh, sorry, I'm so rude. Hello, I'm Tao Shiman, a photography enthusiast. Hello. The young man nodded. Shouldn't he introduce himself at this time? But what made Tao Shiman feel interesting was that this young man's simple greeting seemed to be much better than his self-introduction. What should she say? It was just right. This was the only feeling Tao Shiman had when she thought about it. She asked, Do you come here often? The young man nodded. Recently. She asked, Do you live here? The young man shook his head. No. Tao Shiman smiled. You don't live here, but you came here to buy food. It seems that you like the food here. The young man responded with a smile. I'm actually buying for someone. Well, I made a friend recently. He often forgets to eat because of work. I'm afraid he can't stand it. Tao Shiman nodded. He's so lucky to have you as a friend. The young man didn't say anything but slightly smiled. At this time, the boss of the noodle house came with 2 boxes. Well, here are your noodles. The young man simply paid and stood up. He glanced at Tao Shiman, whispering, No matter whether the noodles taste good or not, my friend will finish them. She just felt strange. Until the end of this short conversation, Tao Shiman still didn't know the young man's name. Of course, this was not a strange encounter, because she already had a fiancé who loved her, and she also loved him deeply. She just felt that this encounter was like a small episode, a quiet song in the metropolis. Hey, miss, what do you want to eat? But the owner of the noodle house was still standing there. Tao Shiman was too embarrassed to say no since she had already sat down. She lowered her head and thought for a while, looking at the chopstick holder on the table. Give me a bowl of knife-shaved noodles and add the topping. Okay. After leaving the noodle house, Tao Shiman passed by the place where she used to live. She had an impulse to go up and have a look, but the passers-by on the street startled her. After a moment of shock, the impulse faded away, leaving only a trace of melancholy. She looked up one last time, took a deep breath, and walked toward the exit of the street. The knife-shaved noodles with toppings still tasted good, but this might be the last time she tasted it. Because she didn't know whether this noodle house would still be there when she had the chance to pass by. Interestingly, when she was about to leave this old street, Tao Shiman met an acquaintance, her classmate, her desk mate in elementary school. Looking at her from a distance, she was a little fat now. It seemed that she got married at a young age. Tao Shiman watched her old classmate walking past a small stall selling ice cream with a child of 4 or 5 years old. Tao Shiman didn't recognize her, and she just watched her holding her son's hand and disappearing at the corner. Tao Shiman thought that she should go up and greet her, but some memories of her childhood were like shackles, locking her nostalgia in the old noodle house. Some hurt would probably last a lifetime. Time would eventually erase all traces of this old street, and at the same time, her memory would be erased. She hoped so. Tao Shiman's trip to the old place ended here. But Tao Shiman didn't expect that she would encounter something unexpected today. Are you Tao Shiman? Chapter 393. What? Kidnapping? In the office of Officer Ma Howd in the police station, the person who stood up from the chair and slammed his hands on the table was not Officer Ma himself. Yes, Sir Lin, he reported a kidnapping case. He said he saw it. Lin Feng frowned and glanced at Minesweeper on the computer subconsciously. He finally understood why Sir Ma liked to play this game when he was here. It turned out that he couldn't stop. As for why the person playing Minesweeper here was Lin Feng instead of Ma Howd, of course, it was because he hadn't accompanied his wife for so many days in a row. Officer Ma had applied for a vacation a day ago. Now, he was probably enjoying the sun with Mrs. Ma on a cruise ship, enjoying things like a swimming pool. So our Lin Feng was temporarily upgraded to Officer Lin. Officer Lin said seriously, "Where is she?" The policeman said, "Just outside." "Mr. Zhou Zihao, right?" Officer Lin looked at the young man in front of him. He was used to reading the information no matter what he did. Overseas Chinese, graduated from a famous university, this time he came back to hold a wedding. Well, no problem. His fiancée was kidnapped, well, no problem. No, there was a problem. "Mr. Zhou, please tell me what you saw at that time, okay?" Officer Lin asked seriously. Zhou Zihao nodded at this time, but his expression was still very anxious. "Here's the thing. I went to my fiancée's house at night and happened to see her downstairs. But at that time, she was pulling a man. It was too far away, so I didn't hear what they said, but it seemed to be an argument. Then the man pulled my fiancée into a van. I wanted to catch up, but I was not familiar with the road here, so I didn't catch up. Until now, I couldn't contact my fiancée." "Do you remember the license plate?" Officer Lin nodded. Zhou Zihao hurriedly said, "I wrote down the license plate number and gave it to the policeman next to you." Officer Lin nodded and continued to ask, "You said that the man talked to her first and then pulled her into the car, right? Could it be someone you know? Oh right, you came back to hold a wedding banquet. Could that man be your fiancée's ex-lover or something? Hatred born out of love?" "Sir, why don't you write romance novels since you are so smart?" Zhou Zihao frowned. "My fiancée and I met when we were in university. She has been living abroad since she was young and has only returned recently. Do you think your speculation is possible?" Officer Lin raised his third finger to salute the overseas elite under the table and smiled. We will not ignore any suspicious direction, please understand. Let's talk about your fiancée. You said that she just returned to the country. Could it be that something happened to her during this period of time? Has she been acting strangely recently? No, never. Josiheo shook his head. Then, have you received any messages from the bandits asking for ransom? No. Josiheo paused and said in a more accurate way, so far, no. At this time, a policeman came in. Officer Lin, the car has been found. According to the clues provided by Mr. Zhou, we found the owner and verified his identity. The owner's name is Long Chong, nicknamed Chong Zi. He has a lot of records and is now a contractor. This is Long Chong's photo. Mr. Zhou, is this the man? Officer Lin handed the information to Josiheo. Josiheo hurriedly said, Yes, officer, it's this man. He's the one who kidnapped my fiancée. Officer Lin patted the table and said in a deep voice, What are you waiting for? Go to Long Chong's home now. The prison was in the suburbs. It would take at least more than an hour to drive from the nearest outer ring of the city. It was about 100 kilometers away. Chong Zi, who only wanted to finish Fatty Zhang's task as soon as possible, hurried out of the city. He wanted to catch up with the visiting time of the next day. Theoretically, the visiting of the prison was first come, first served. If he was late, he would have to wait for the whole afternoon. Obviously, this kind of waiting was very troublesome for Chong Zi. Originally, it was not a problem. Take this woman to the prison to see Fatty Zhang, then bring her back and finish it on the same day. No problem. Damn it. How do you work? How do you work? I asked you to fill up the gas. Where did you fill it? Foreman, I didn't know you were driving out of the city. You didn't tell me. How do I know there is no gas station here? Didn't I say I was going to the prison to see my boss? Chong Zi was stunned and rubbed his head hard. Really? Really, shit. I forgot again. Chong Zi patted his head hard, and then looked at both sides of the road. He had walked back and forth at least dozens of times, so he was very clear that there was not a single house for dozens of kilometers. What should we do now? The worker asked. How do I know? Chong Zi scratched his head and then opened the back of the van. He felt something was wrong. What? Shit, who made you do this? In the back seat of the van, Zhao Ru's hands and feet were tied with plastic tape and her mouth was glued with a piece of sealant. She was frightened with tears on her face. Well, foreman, didn't you say this woman was too noisy and wanted to shut her up? The worker shrugged. I used the tools in the van. Motherf *Ker, hurry up and release him. Chong Zi hit the back of the worker's head hard. You make us look like bad guys. Then, Chong Zi approached Tao Shiman with a smile. Well, miss, we mean no harm. My brothers are just a little rude, please don't mind. I'll untie it for you. It may be a little painful, please bear with it. Chong Zi stretched out his hand to tear off the tape on Tao Shiman's face. Unexpectedly, his palm was bitten hard. Chong Zi shouted in pain and instinctively pushed her away. Shit! You bit me! You'd better let me go now. Do you know what you're doing now? This is illegal kidnapping. Miss, I've already said that I'm only inviting you to meet my boss, Fatty Zhang. Chong Zi said painfully. Can't you just meet him? Don't worry, we'll pay you. Anyway, you're in this line of work. You're good, I'm good, we're all good, right? I don't know Fatty Zhang at all, and I'm not the one who does that kind of thing. Tao Shiman was really angry. This man suddenly appeared with a few burly men and inexplicably asked her to sleep with him. This was simply inexplicable. Chong Zi said casually. It doesn't matter whether you know him or not, as long as my boss knows you. My boss wants to sleep with you, can't you be quiet? The price is negotiable. Well, I know some ladies don't want to do this kind of business, but don't worry, you'll be satisfied with the pay. You just need to lie down in the couple's room and take off your pants. Then Chong Zi suddenly lowered his head and approached. Don't worry, my boss is actually a fast shooter, and it won't take long. But don't tell anyone that I said that. Okay. We're all out to make a living, so we'll see each other all the time. Who knows, maybe we'll bump into each other when we go to the spa one day. F***ck it hurts, don't bite my ear, don't, ouch. Help. Kidnapping. Help. Kidnapping. Tao Shiman began to scream. Foreman, what should we do? I don't know. It hurts so much. Chang Zi kept rubbing his ear. It's bleeding. Was she born in the year of the dog in her previous life? Stop screaming. Seal her mouth first. Stick to it, stick to it. Help. Help. Woo 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 woo. Finally, it was quiet. Qiangzi sighed and walked to a tree beside the road. He sat up and ordered, well, bring some water over and help me wash my ears. Hey, what are you doing? Hurry up and call someone to send some gasoline over. Do you want to spend the night in the wilderness? Yes, foreman. Shit, why are there so many mosquitoes here? Chang Zi patted the air. Why did he encounter so many troubles when he was just delivering the cannons to Fatty Zhang? Clap. At this moment, the sound of a slap appeared beside Qiangzi. Qiangzi was stunned and asked subconsciously, What are you doing here? Killing mosquitoes for you, foreman. I know, but do you need so many people to kill mosquitoes? Chang Zi slapped, 1, 2, 3, 4, why did you all come out? Foreman. There's no gasoline in the car, and the air conditioner can't be turned on. It's very hot in the car, so we came out to get some fresh air. Qiangzi rolled his eyes and said, You all came down. Who's looking after that woman? The worker shrugged. She's tied up and can't run away. Don't worry. But foreman, this woman doesn't look like she's here to work. Could we have made a mistake? Chang Zi scratched his head, thinking of Tao Shiman's reaction along the way, and nodded subconsciously. I think it's a bit strange. Oh, I can't remember what my boss said that day. No, I have to make it clear. Then, Chang Zi walked towards the van parked on the road. But he didn't see Tao Shiman. The plastic strap on the back seat had been worn off. Apparently, it was worn off by the edge of the metal toolbox at the back of the car. Chapter 394. Boss, what are we going to do now? One of the workers spoke with a Sichuan accent. How would I know? Qiangzi scratched his head and pointed with his finger. You, and you, look around. The four big men started to look for the original path, but Chang Zi sat here alone. After all, he was a foreman. How could a person with status do such a disgraceful thing? **T, what a shitty place. I can't even find the convenience store. I'm so thirsty. Suddenly, he heard a sound. It should be the sound of the phone vibrating. Chang Zi looked around the car and found a phone under the seat. The caller ID was Ziheo. Did that woman throw this here? Long Chang scratched his head and casually picked it up. Shaman. Shaman, are you there? Shaman. Shaman. Wait, what's your name? I'm not Shaman. Long Chang picks his nose. Who are you? You. Who are you? The voice on the other end of the phone was very anxious. I tell you, you can have whatever you want. But don't hurt Shaman. Otherwise I'll kill you. What are you talking about? Chang Zi gave a start. What do you mean by hurting her? She hurts me. Motherf ***, I've seen blood. Oh, I know, you're her boyfriend, right? Yes, I'm her boyfriend. Zhou Ziheo said solemnly. If you have anything to say, just come at me. What's the point of bullying a woman? You're the bastard. Chang Zi snorted. I tell you, if you don't pay me for the medicine, I'll bite off your woman's ear. **T. Who didn't know me, Brother Chang of Gentle Wind Mountain, when I came out to mingle? Okay. You can have whatever you want, just say it. Don't be impulsive. Give me a price. Zhou Ziheo was frightened. Wait a minute. Chang Zi also remembered his phone at this moment. He covered Tao Shiman's phone and picked up his own. Hey Wadiazi, I asked you to get some gasoline. Where are you? Foreman, Boss Wang wants us to get some cement. He's in a hurry. Can you wait? F***ck. How long will that take? There's no other way. There's not enough cement at the construction site. It's not like you don't know that the construction team has been rushing us. Alright, I'll think of something. That's it. Xiangzi frowned and closed his phone with a gloomy look. Then, he picked up another phone. Hello, are you still there? I'm here, you tell me. How about this? Xiangzi said casually. Go get a gasoline barrel, fill it up and send it to me. The location is… Oh, the road to Chaoyun Prison on the Outer Ring Road. It's on the way. You can see me on the way. Alright, I got it. When will it be delivered? Zhou Zihao hurriedly asked. While looking at the van's rearview mirror, Xiangzi plucked his nose hairs and said, Do you still need to ask? Of course it had to be delivered right away. I don't want to continue staying in this damned place. I'm telling you, if you don't deliver it before dark, I'll teach you a lesson. I'll teach your woman a lesson. Alright, before the sky turns dark then. But you said full. How much is it? What? Just fill it up. How much is there? Are you an idiot? But I'm asking you how much money you just said. The medical fee. I'll forget about it if you don't mention it. Xiangzi rubbed his ears and shook his head. Forget it, just 1,000 or 100. Then, is it 1,000 or 100? How much is 100? Well, 800 good. Xiangzi didn't want to continue nagging. That's it, you send it over. Hurry up. I can wait, but my brothers can't wait. Beep. After hanging up the phone, Long Chong touched his ears and muttered, 800 for medical fee, isn't it a bit too little? Oh, I don't care, I'll take a nap. Zhou Zihao grasped the phone tightly and rushed to Officer Lin's office. Mr. Zhou, our men are arriving at Long Chong's house. We'll inform you as soon as we get the news. Calm down. Not this. Officer Lin, I just got the phone number of the kidnappers. Tell me about it. Officer Lin suddenly became serious. Zhou Zihao nodded and said seriously, Officer, they said they are on the way to Chaoyun Prison. We'll see them on the way. Also, the ransom they asked for is 8 million, but it's strange, they said it should be packed in a gasoline barrel. A highway deal? 8 million? Officer Lin was stunned. What do these kidnappers want? Do they want to drive away immediately after getting the money? But isn't it too stupid to take a highway? Officer, it's not the time to think about whether they are stupid or not, but the safety of my fiancé, okay? Zhou Zihao said in a low voice. The kidnapper said that he would bite off my fiancé's ear if we don't pay. Bite? Lin Feng nodded. Well, it seems that these guys have potential violent tendencies. By the way, Mr. Zhou, do they know you called the police? I don't think so. Zhou Zihao tried hard to recall. He didn't ask, so I didn't tell him. Mr. Zhou, did the kidnapper ask you to deliver the ransom in person? I think so, he asked me to deliver it directly. Zhou Zihao nodded. Officer Lin walked back and forth in the office. Don't worry. Since the bandit leader made such a request so blatantly, he must be fully prepared. We need to think about it carefully. Zhou Zihao frowned. I don't care what you say, I'm going to the bank now. Mr. Zhou, we don't want this kind of behavior, it will only promote the crime. We can't condone these kidnappers. That's your business. But I only have one fiancé. I can earn back the money, but my lover is gone, can you accompany me? Zhou Zihao glared at Lin Feng. He didn't care what Lin Feng said, and turned around to make a phone call. Hello, is that Stephen? Do me a favor, 8 million in cash, yes, I need it now. Finally, old Feng stopped. It wasn't because he needed to drink a mouthful of water, but because he stopped and slowly let out a sigh of relief. There was a satisfied smile on the old man's face. Is it finished? Luochio's voice came from behind Old Feng. Old Feng had been used to the company of Luochio. Luochio never got tired of listening to Luochio's stories. Luochio never asked too many questions. He was satisfied to listen to Luo Chio's story. As for Old Feng, this kind of confession didn't delay his work. Instead, it made his work less boring. It was as if he had the company of his boss, and his hands and feet were naturally nimble. What made Old Feng feel strange was that he was never this agile when he was young. It's not officially finished yet. Old Feng smiled. There are still many details to be cleaned up, and some adjustments to be made. That's a lot of work. It's not easy to finish it in such a short time. Luo Chio bent down slightly, looking at the code hanging on the page, and suddenly said, "Sir, can I touch it?" Old Feng gave a start and said, "It's okay, feel free to touch it." Every stitch and thread here was embroidered with drops of time, condensing all the love a father had for his daughter. Every thread, every stitch, the pattern they weaved together contained a magnificence that no one could see. Luo Chio's fingers slowly moved over the threads. He closed his eyes. The thing he touched was so full. "Sir, this is one of the few treasures I've seen." Luo Chio took back his fingers reluctantly. Old Feng smiled. For him, the wedding gown was also one of his works. Any craftsman would be happy to receive praise for their work. "You know what?" Old Feng lifted the gown slightly. "I really want to let Shimon try it right now. You can try to contact her." Luo Chio took out the phone. "Call her with this. You don't have to look for a phone on the street. Don't worry, it will only show a strange number, and no one can find the source." Old Feng took the phone with surprise. If it was someone else who said it, he would probably regard it as a bluff. But since it was this mysterious boss in front of him, he naturally believed it without a doubt. "Hello, Mr. Zhou? Who are you? How is Shimon? Is it you? I've prepared the ransom, and I'm on my way. Don't hurt her." Old Feng's face suddenly changed. "Wait, I'm Master Zhou, the one who made the wedding gown for you. Did you misunderstand something? What do you mean by hurt and on my way?" "Master Zhou? It's you. Sorry, I'm too nervous." "What ransom?" "No, nothing. Master Zhou, I'm busy now. I'll contact you when I have time." "Hello? Hello? Hello?" Old Feng hurriedly dialed the number again, but the other side hung up immediately. Old Feng was so anxious that he subconsciously looked at the mysterious boss with a pale face. "What happened to my daughter?" Luo Chio waved his hand and turned his back. Under the mask, he slowly closed his eyes and frowned slightly. After a while, Luo Chio turned around and said with an apologetic voice, "Sir, I think I know where your daughter is. At the same time, allow me to apologize in advance, because something unexpected has happened." "What? Did you do something to my daughter?" Old Feng's eyes suddenly became sharp.